I call to order the city council meeting for March 25th, 2025. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Adler.
Here.
Councilmember Joanna.
Present.
Councilmember Rubio.
Here.
Vice Mayor Veros.
Here.
Mayor Armstrong.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, next item.
Item 3, announcements. 3.1, changes and additions to the agenda. We have none. Item 3.2, if you'd like to speak under public comment, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and bring it forward. Item 4, public comment.
Okay. Public comment is open. At this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on any non-agenda item related to the business of the city council. Items that are on the consent calendar, including requests to pull an item from the consent calendar and the reason why you wish to pull the item or items. And please note that the decision to remove the item from the consent calendar is strictly at the discretion of the city council. You can speak on requests for future agenda items or on any of the special presentation items under section 6 of tonight's agenda, and also on items that are not on the agenda but are within the city council's jurisdiction. Please be reminded that while the city ensures the First Amendment rights of its citizens, we do not accept nor endorse any offensive or hateful comments made during our meetings. The city celebrates the diversity of our community, and we strive to be a welcoming and open community for all. If you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city clerk. And while we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents the city council from discussing items that are not on the meeting agenda. City council does take them very seriously, however, and if appropriate, staff will follow up. During public comment, the limit will be 3 minutes for speakers. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do not for this item.
Do we have any written comments?
Not for this item, no.
Okay, then I will close public comment. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Does any council member wish to pull any of the consent items?
No, I move the consent calendar.
Okay, motion Vice Mayor Veros.
I'll second that.
And Mayor, prior to the vote, we did receive public comment on item 5.2. I'm sorry, item 5.3 from Mr. Swanson, and it is before you as well as in the back of the room.
Yes, I acknowledge it's in our packet, the written correspondence from Brian Swanson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have motion Vice Mayor Veros, second from Councilmember Rubio. And time to vote. Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, we're on to special presentations. And the first one will be a proclamation recognizing the 100th anniversary celebration of the Veterans Memorial Building of San Ramon Valley. I will do a presentation to Chris Tadeo, President, Board of Trustees, Veterans Memorial Building of San Ramon Valley. And if I could ask Chris and anyone else you want to come forward to the center here. Come on around here. All right, it's on. Here we go.
Giacomelli with us also.
All right, Bob and Dennis. And Chris, Bob, and Dennis and I and several others are on a committee organizing the 100th anniversary of the celebration of the Veterans Memorial Building. So, and that's what this proclamation is all about. So this is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of San Ramon recognizing the Veterans Memorial Building of San Ramon Valley on its 100th anniversary. Whereas the Veterans Memorial Building was dedicated on April 2nd, 1925, and has provided a gathering center for San Ramon veterans, their families, and the broader San Ramon Valley veteran community, and has stood as a beacon of honor, sacrifice, and community for 100 years. And whereas this classic and prestigious building has played host to thousands of veteran activities, as well as community events, attracting San Ramon Valley residents for senior programs, parties, banquets, weddings, voting, youth activities, craft fairs, business events, and many other activities. And whereas in 2012, the city of San Ramon participated in the planning and various efforts involved in the building's renovation and expansion, resulting in a beautifully designed banquet hall, a fully equipped catering kitchen, and versatile meeting rooms. And whereas a central feature of this facility is the Veterans Activity Wing, which provides meeting and event space for veteran service organizations serving San Ramon veterans. And whereas on March 30th, 2025, the San Ramon Valley community celebrates the 100th anniversary of the building with an all-day event including post-World War I themed displays, vintage vehicles, photo displays of building history and life in the 1920s, live music, period role players in costume, a scavenger hunt, and art activities for children, and World War I displays and artifacts. And whereas this historic celebration is an inspiration to future generations, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon does hereby join in the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Veterans Memorial Building, a cornerstone of our community since 1925 that has for a century served to honor the history and contributions of our local veterans. All right. All right, yeah, let's get a picture with everybody in here. Come on over here, Dennis and Bob. All right. Chris,
Thanks for
say a
everything.
couple words.
Sure.
Floor is yours, yeah.
Want to thank the city council for this, and also Mayor Armstrong for all the work he's done with our committee. Bob and Dennis are the real brains and workhorses in this operation, and it promises to be a great event. I hope you all will consider coming out next Sunday, March 30th. It's all day from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And as the proclamation said, there's going to be a lot of activities, especially for kids. So we hope you'll all come out and help us celebrate. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And any council members have anything to add?
I just want to thank you for being here and for your service, and I just appreciate what you've done, and I appreciate having a place so that we can honor the veterans at different memorial holidays and so on, and been there during when we have the Huey helicopter out there, and spoken to some of the Vietnam War veterans, and my father served in World War II in the Navy, and also my father-in-law flew Corsairs in World War II and also the Korean War. So I feel that allegiance, the military, allegiance that we all should feel towards you guys. So thanks for being here. I will be there.
Vice Mayor Burrows?
Congratulations on your 100th anniversary for your memorial, Veterans Memorial Building. Thank you for your services. We are pretty proud and honored you being within our San Ramon Valley. And thanks for all your services for our veterans. We appreciate it, and I'll see you on Sunday. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Rubio?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for serving our country and our community, continuing to do that for many years thereafter, and, making sure that there's visibility, awareness, and outreach on behalf of our veterans to make sure that we're all aware of what you're needing and how we can support you. So from the bottom of my heart and all of us, we thank you very much for your continued work.
All right, Councilmember Schweda?
Just thank you, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We do have a box up here for that plaque that we'll get you as well. But look forward to seeing you Sunday. Hopefully the weather will hold out. It's there as you should, as all military planners do. All right. And it's a free family event. You got to remember that too, for supporting all our veterans for the San Ramon Valley, but we got so many here in San Ramon. So thanks again for all that you're doing to set this thing up. Have a good evening. All right. Moving on to item 6.2, let me ask Steve Cox to come forward and do the introduction here.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong, council members, and fellow members of the public. My name is Steve Cox. I'm the staff advisor to the Library Advisory Committee. I'm happy to be here tonight. We know the city of San Ramon loves its libraries, and we're very happy to put that love on display tonight with the National Library Week proclamation. At this time, I am very pleased to introduce the San Ramon Library Senior Manager, Francis Adebola Wilson, if you can come up, and the Doherty Station Library Manager, Elaine Pedley. They're both coming from the same side, so we can come up here. And at this time, they're both here to receive the National Library Week proclamation.
Good evening, Francis and Elaine. All right, I have a proclamation of the City Council of the City of San Ramon declaring April 6th through 12th as National Library Week. Whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can explore new ideas and be drawn to new possibilities. And whereas libraries serve as vibrant community hubs, connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resources, while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and lifelong learning. And whereas libraries provide free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals, regardless of background, have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. And whereas libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations, connecting the dots to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. And whereas libraries empower job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources, training, and opportunities that support career growth and economic success. And whereas libraries nurture young minds through story times, STEAM programs, and literacy initiatives, fostering curiosity and a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. And whereas libraries protect the right to read, think, and explore without censorship, standing as champions of intellectual freedom and free expression. And whereas dedicated librarians and library workers provide welcoming spaces that inspire discovery, collaboration, and creativity for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library under the theme, Drawn to the Library. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of San Ramon does hereby proclaim April 6th through 12th, 2025 as National Library Week and encourages all residents to visit their library and celebrate all the ways that the library draws us together as a community. All right. And who would like to receive this proclamation? Come on. Well, come on up. We'll take a picture here real quick. All right, there you go. And
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Armstrong, Vice Mayor Viros, Council Member Winnert, Council Member Adler, Council Member Rubio, the City Manager, Steven Pedowski, the City Attorney, and other esteemed members of the City Executive Team, and the public as well. Thank you for your continued support of our libraries. This year, we're expecting and exploring new ways to connect you more directly with the communities you serve. One idea we are looking at directly is we are planning to implement invitations. We are so that we can invite each of you to visit both our libraries, branches at different times throughout the year, especially during family-focused programs such as craft sessions, chess clubs, and story times. These events are often well attended by parents and families. And we believe your presence will offer a personal and community-centered way. And we believe that you'll be able to offer a valuable opportunity to engage with your constituents in a more personal and community-centered way. Elaine will speak further about some of the programs and services offered at both libraries, and we also touch on some specific related to DSL. We are especially grateful to the city for restoring San Ramon Library to its previous hours of operation. Now, we are back to 56 hours a week, and we remain hopeful that DSL will soon regain its full hours as well. Special thanks to the Library Advisory Committee for their ongoing guidance and strong advocacy on libraries and community priorities. We are also deeply grateful to the San Ramon Library Foundation, whose generous and continued support have made many programs, materials, and enriching experiences possible, including supplies for arts and crafts, prizes, educational tools, and author visits. Finally, we implore all council members and members of the community who have not yet done so to get their library cards and explore the wide range of invaluable programs and services the library has to offer. It's a small step that opens the door to a world of knowledge, connection, and opportunity. Thank you again for your steadfast support.
Thank you, Francis.
Good evening, Mayor Armstrong and council members. I wanted to talk a little bit about how we're going to celebrate National Library Week at our libraries. And the theme for this year is Drawn to the Library. Drawn to the Library promotes the idea that all people, young and old, are drawn to the library for many different reasons, from young families stopping in for play and story time, to students working on school projects, to seniors seeking tech help, and everyone in between. Libraries of all kinds help communities connect the dots that link one part of their journey to the next. So when we celebrate April 6th through the 12th, all week, patrons will have the opportunity to write a note about why they love the library or draw a picture about why they're drawn to the library. We'll also be posting on social media each day, focusing on specific services that we offer to our community. Tuesday is specifically Staff Appreciation Day, and we'll acknowledge our amazing staff with some treats and expressions of thanks. Wednesday is Outreach Day, and we'll acknowledge our staff who go out into the community and promote library services to school children, senior citizens, and groups like Kiwanis Club and Rotary Club. And Thursday is Take Action Day, and we'll thank our wonderful and generous San Ramon Library Foundation for all they do for our libraries, as well as the Library Advisory Committee. And we hope that everyone plans to attend the Foundation's fundraising event next month, A Night in the Stacks. We'll also be thanking our amazing City of San Ramon and their staff who take excellent care of our facilities, partner with us for the Story Walk, and fund extra open hours, and support us in so many different ways. I'd also like to highlight a few things from the past year at our libraries. At my library specifically, we converted our picture book shelves to rolling picture book shelves, and we split them into 3-foot units, added wheels, and we can push them out of the way, and that way we have a much larger space to accommodate large crowds for special events. And we were able to do that for the first time about a month ago, and we had 325 people in attendance for a program, and we were very happy that we could seat them. We also enjoyed a lot of different special events for families and children at both libraries, and the attendance ranges anywhere from 100 to 325 attendees. And these are all sponsored by the San Ramon Library Foundation. My library received a new scanner for the community, which of course is free of charge. We also, a student at Doherty Valley High School donated a 3D printer to us, which was delivered this afternoon, just a couple hours ago. We have enjoyed full staffing levels for about a year and a half at my branch. Although there has been a decrease in circulation of physical items at both libraries, and that's pretty much across the county at all libraries, we have experienced at both San Ramon and Doherty an increase in library facility usage. So that's people coming through the doors. Our story time numbers at both libraries are the highest ever. Both libraries have also reached all schools in their geographic area, distributing library cards to elementary school children and promoting library services. And at my library, we also included our 2 local middle schools this year. My library is looking forward to 2 special events this summer. Exploration Station is a county-sponsored event for families, which will kick off our summer reading program June 6th. And in August, we're going to celebrate our 20th birthday. So very excited about that as well. And I want to thank everyone very much for the proclamation. And come see us.
All right, thank you. But before you go, we might have some comments here. Let me start again. Go to the same order we had. Councilmember Adler.
Thank you both for being here. Francis, I think we were together in Leadership San Ramon Valley. So, there's a lot of circles that connect in the city. But I want to thank you for being here and what you do with the libraries. Libraries are, you can tell a lot about a community by their quality of their libraries. And we've got a couple really good libraries. And, I think if people went to libraries more often and read books instead of looking at their phone, I think our country would be all the better for it. But thanks for what you're doing and keep up the good work.
Vice Mayor Burrows.
Thank you to all librarians and librarian staff for your dedication and commitment in providing literacy and education and also free access to so much of education material. We appreciate, as personally, libraries played important role in my personal growth. I totally understand the importance how libraries plays as a cornerstone of the community. So, and also, I'm glad to hear that we got our 3D printing at last. So that's great news. I'm definitely looking forward to come with my teenager son and print some of them. So thanks for all your services.
Councilmember Rubio.
Thank you, Dr. Adebola Wilson and Elaine Pedley. I appreciate everything you shared with us. It just really reassures us that you are doing a fabulous job out there every day, and we appreciate you for that. And we appreciate also that you are fostering a love of learning in our young people. It's a very important time in their life, and it does set the tone for them and how they look at learning. And it's not just about learning about subjects, but you're teaching about social and research skills and how to work collaboratively on sometimes the projects that they come in to do. And while we have the internet and all those wonderful things, there are some things that still have to come through the library. So it's great to know that you're continuing to make sure that you know how to use the library and come in and be efficient. So thank you for everything. I appreciate you both very much.
Councilmember Swayne.
Congratulations. As you know, on our library advisory committee that we had a month ago, I shared my story with you. I won't bore people here, but I grew up in the library. That's my parents banished me to when I was punished. They said, either your room or the library, and I went to the library. So I've always appreciated the library, and thank you so much. And I think I don't think I've ever been to this library where it has never been empty. There's always been a group of people, students, kids of all ages and adults reading and learning. So thank you for your contributions and thank you for your support. Thank you.
And I'll just also say thank you for everything that you do for our libraries. Tonight, even on our consent calendar, we approved the newest members of the Library Advisory Committee. So If you haven't heard those names, you'll see them on the agenda there. The foundation does such great work. Your staff does great work. It provides such a great gathering space for all of our community members, especially our teens and after school and things like that. So many things going on. We all, I think most of us were over at the art project dedication not too long ago over at the San Ramon Library, a beautiful piece of art over there. There's just so much going on. And I encourage, hopefully all of council can make it to the fundraiser that was mentioned. That's on April 26th, a night in the stacks at the San Ramon Library. And should be a great event, and looking forward to that. So thank you again for being here, and thanks for all that you and the library folks do for us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. And before I leave, finally, I just want to implore you that we'll be reaching out to each of you. You know, at some time, we want to say, meet your mayor, meet your vice mayor, meet your council person. You know, that way you can still connect with the community and comment to the library as well. So that way you can still expand the horizon and you can meet with them as well. So we'll reach out to each of you to find out what works best for us, for you, and the community as well. We want to proudly showcase you. You know, let them know. It could be story time with the mayor. It could be chess time with, you know, Council Rubio and all the rest. So
That'd be fun.
Stay tuned.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Elaine. Okay, next item. Next item, deferred consent items. We have none. Item 8, unfinished business. We have none, and we're on to new business. Item 9.1, Innovate 680 Bollinger Canyon Road Share Mobility Hub presentation. Presentation by Tim Hale, Executive Director of Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And okay, you got his slides. Hope your mic is on.
Radio check, radio check.
You got it. You're on.
My name is Tim Hale. I'm the Executive Director of Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and I'm actually joined here with our Director of Projects, Stephanie Hu, who's actually in the audience, and she's actually the real leader here. She's the one that's really been working on all this great Innovate 680 work and really bringing a lot of innovation into this corridor. And really appreciate the opportunity, Mayor Armstrong and members, for allowing us to be here and kind of present about CCTA and Innovate 680. We know there's a lot of new members on the council. We thought it'd be a great opportunity to kind of give you a briefing about Innovate 680. This has been a long time coming. This has been work that's been starting back all the way into 2019. And so we're really starting to get into the implementations phases. And this is going to be somewhat of a long presentation. So I just want to give you some warning now. So feel free to kind of stop me with any questions that you might have during the presentation. Happy to answer as we go, or we can hold questions at the end, however you want to proceed, Mayor. And first, I'm going to talk a little about CCTA and what we do and who we are and what we bring to Contra Costa County. And I'm going to give you an overview about Innovate 680. And then I'm going to go into a very specific topic relative to the program around shared mobility hubs, particularly here in San Ramon and Bishop Ranch. Okay. So CCTA, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, was actually formed by voters in 1988 by Measure C. And it basically approved a 0.5% sales tax for transportation programs and projects in Contra Costa County. And then that sales tax was renewed in 2004, and which is Measure J, which is actually the current measure that CCTA actually operates under today. And it's also a 0.5% sales tax. And we are the countywide transportation planning agency. We also, the designated statewide or designated state congestion management agency. And so our role in this is to really take a watchful eye over transportation mobility and programs throughout the county and really making sure we're bringing mobility for all. These are actually, this is our mission, really thinking about how we really reduce traffic congestion. One example of this is that without the passage of Measure J, most congestion in most highways in Contra Costa County would probably result in commutes that are anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes longer if we did not have Measure J passed in 2004. So we've been able to provide a tremendous amount of benefit into the existing transportation mobility and infrastructure. Obviously, we have a number one priority is really about safety, but we're really focusing on how we can connect our transportation system in Contra Costa County to really make it personal, make it person-centered mobility, and more customer-friendly. And we're also looking at how we can really tie and connect cities, land use, economic development, and transportation all together, really under that transportation planning umbrella. These are some of the programs and some of the things that we do at CCTA. One of the things that directly benefits City of San Ramon is we get 18% of return to source to all of the cities in Contra Costa County that really help fund paving and local road projects directly in each of the cities and each of the communities in Contra Costa County. And that's the Local Streets Program. We also fund transit. We actually fund Safe Route to School programs. We actually fund the Traffics Program, which is the school bus program here in the San Ramon Valley. And that's a really, I know, very valued program in this community. And so that is funded by Measure J, obviously with contributions from some of the parents in that program. And then the other thing that we fund is we fund projects around BART, so modernization of BART stations. And then we also fund bicycle and pedestrian projects as well. And we also actually construct projects. So a big part of what CCTA does is we plan, fund, and deliver projects in Contra Costa County. And so some of the key projects that you see here that really help support the passage of Measure J was the fourth bore, the Caldecott Tunnel. All of the improvements that you've seen along 680 corridor over the last decade has all been brought to you by Measure J and CCTA, as well as road widening projects and also interchange projects, and also pedestrian overcrossing projects. So for example, the Bollinger Canyon pedestrian overcrossing was really in partnership with the City of San Ramon, built by CCTA. And this is really our bread and butter. And there's their project right there. And so this has been a fantastic partnership. Really something that's exciting about this project is we actually use an alternative delivery method called Construction Manager General Contractor, and has helped minimize the contract change orders for this project. We only have 3 on this project, which is very rare. And so it helps with cost certainty and schedule. But also your staff has been amazing on this project. Everything from the city manager to your transportation manager, public works director, all of them have been just really great partners in delivering this project, both on the public, in the community, messaging, public outreach, as well as working with the contractor, traffic control, all of those things. It's really been a fantastic partnership doing this in San Ramon, and really a really great model project that we can demonstrate in the county of how we can broaden our support to local jurisdictions across the county. So a big part of what we do is we attract state and federal funds and regional funds into Contra Costa County. This is something that we're very, very good at. And so as you can kind of see by these numbers, Measure J, in combination with Measure C, about $1.4 billion in local sales tax dollar. And so for every dollar that we've collected, we've been able to attract $3 of outside fund sources, state and federal fund sources. And that's been for a total investment of $5.6 billion in Contra Costa County over the life of the measure. And we're very, very proud of that. We actually what's called AAA. So we advertise, award, and administer all of our construction projects, and we do that to control cost and schedule. We're also an award-winning organization, and we're also AAA credit rating. And the way we do this is we bond against all that future revenue, bring that money forward, and basically get ahead of escalation and build those projects now rather than later. And that has really generated a lot of trust in the community, but also in the finance industry, which has led to our AAA credit rating. So getting into Innovate 680, I think one of the things that we know about 680 corridor is we're not going to widen this corridor again. It's pretty much about what width it's going to be. And so this corridor is highly constrained, as you all know. It still has congestion. We have a bottleneck at Highway 24, and I'll get into that a little here in a minute. But it's really about focusing on if we're not going to widen our roads, what are we going to do to really manage congestion? And this is where we start using and leveraging data, really taking a performance-based approach, really focusing on return on investment, and really focusing on the user and bringing the best project and the best mobility option, personalized mobility option to the user. And we're doing that through what's called this Innovate 680 program, Your Ride, Your Way. And as you think about our transportation system, we have 19 cities in Contra Costa County, and we know that transportation does not stop at city boundaries. And so this is really about integrating transportation across multiple boundaries, focusing on large corridors, focusing on regional trips, and really connecting the transportation system in Contra Costa County. Is also managing the congestion, leveraging technology, but also really focusing on how can we get mode shift in this corridor? How can we work with our partners like County Connection and our transit operators to really bring in better, more multimodal transit, and really bring in more frequent transit, more reliable service, all of those things into the service, into the corridor, to be able to attract people into transit, into alternative modes, and also focus on first and last mile. So not just focusing on just the corridor, 680 corridor, but focusing on how we can get people to the corridor. So we're looking at first and last mile options, but also looking at how we can leverage our smart traffic signal systems, how we can leverage shared autonomous shuttles like you've seen here in Bishop Branch. A lot of really thinking about transportation in this kind of more multimodal opportunity to really bring this kind of personalized centered mobility. So these are the actual 6 projects that we are advancing as part of the Innovate 680 program. And I'm going to highlight each of them as part of the project. And through this program of projects will result in those goals and outcomes that I just mentioned. So the first project is the 680 Express Lane completion project. And this is really addressing that bottleneck. This is really the last kind of a large capital intensive, construction intensive project that we're going to have in the corridor. This project, as well as the coordinated adaptive ramp metering, which I'll get in a minute. But this is about really closing the gap in the express lanes. And so the express lanes today ends in Livorno Road. And then you can see that gap between Highway 242 and Livorno Road. And so this is why you see congestion in the afternoon on 680, is because this express lanes are coming to an end. You have a bottleneck. But also the other thing is you can kind of see that little orange kind of X. We have a lot of traffic that enters into the highway at Treat and Lawrence Way. And that also, as you all know, congestion is caused by people weaving across multiple lanes in short amount of distances, and that causes congestion. And so that's what's happening in this mixing bowl between 24 and 242 is if you think about 680 for a moment, in this particular area, in order to stay on 680, all lanes have to shift over in order to stay on 680. Because if you were going to stay on 680, you'll go directly on 242. And so if you want to continue northbound on 680, and similarly, as you come on 24 and you want to go to 242, so you have this massive mixing bowl that's happening in this location. And that mixing bowl is what's really causing this massive bottleneck. And so this project really focuses on really strategic improvements to really build braided ramps, which are ramps that basically cross over each other to help eliminate those weaving conditions, but also to close the gap in the express lanes. This project actually was just recently awarded a $166 million grant from the United States Department of Transportation. We're really proud of that and very excited in terms of really bringing this project to completion. The next project is...
I have one question on that one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. As you mentioned, we have Measure J, right? So that's where the funding, and also looks like you got 166 million grants on this one. Maybe this question is the right question for you or not, I don't know. But if that's the reason, then why we have express lane? And okay, I don't know who's making decision on that express lane. Even if it is, then how it is going to help when we are charging like $10 on that express lane?
Yeah, so express lanes there's a pricing component to this, right? And so the important part about express lanes, because we're not really widening the lanes, is really making sure that there's actually benefits to everyone in the corridor when you actually implement express lanes, and I'll explain why. Really what you're trying to do is really create that reliable, consistent lane. And the most prominent vehicle in an express lane is, they call it Lexus lane. It's not a Lexus. It's actually like a Honda and a Toyota. And these lanes are actually really important for people that are making choices every single day in their trips, right? These are people not using this lane every single day. They're using the lane and making that choice to really making sure they've got that reliability they need in the corridor. So for example, let's say you have a plumber that's trying to get to that next job before the closure. There's a reliability in this lane. Or let's say you've got a parent that's rushing after work to get to daycare and pick up their kid before they realize any fees, right? And so this is really about having that consistent, reliable lane in the corridor, and then it really kind of gets into the value. And then after that, what happens is by integrating these lanes in the corridor, you're actually able to provide additional capacity in the corridor. And so what that means is, because you're allowing these people priced folks, single occupant vehicles, to get into the express lane, what that does is actually increases throughput in the entire corridor. So not only are people in the express lanes benefiting for that reliability, but it does have improvement in terms of the reliability across the entire corridor. The other thing about express lanes that's also really important is transit. So if you think about transit, and we have another project in here about bus on shoulder, but right now the express lanes throughout, and this is just generally, express lanes are used by transit because it is a carpool or high occupancy vehicle lane. And so there's also that reliability for transit as well. And I'll get into that in a little minute when we talk about bus on shoulder, but there's a lot of advantages to having these express lanes in the corridor. And so it really helps provide that consistent reliability in the corridor, and it helps actually all the lanes in the corridor.
Yeah, so it's good to have express lane, but then when you charge $10 to that plumber, isn't it like rip off $10 just to take few miles in that express lane?
So the express lane is really about, it's continuous access. You're able to enter and exit that lane whenever you want. And I think what's happening is that you're pricing the lane in order to making sure that you have that reliability in the lane. So if, for example, if it's $5 in that lane, then basically you'll get more usage. And so the idea is to use pricing to manage the reliability in that corridor. And it's essentially a national strategy to help, again, provide really reliability in the corridor.
I don't know. For me, it looks like rip-off because you're already charging people on Measure J with the tax. Then you got the grant, which is again tax money from the people. And now again, you're charging on that express lane for using. Okay, if there is a nominal fee, I agree. But $10+ using express lane, that is outrageous. For me, it's like rip-off. And then when you are specially commenting that we are going to help that for not only Lexus, but even for plumbers and all those other day-to-day working class people, basically we are trying to take as much money away from them as possible. That's how I look at it. But thanks.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly what I was thinking, is that there's the people who have to commute the farthest usually are people who are struggling already to make ends meet. I mean, there's people who work here at Whole Foods that are living all the way in Tracy. And so when we are charging 10, I've even seen $12 sometimes, I'm like, that is not affordable for the everyday person. And so what it's doing is inherently providing comfort and privilege to those who can afford it and not to those who can't. And the ones who actually really need it, meaning those who are actually probably working 1 or 2 jobs already and have to commute the farthest, it's probably not even affordable to them.
So the express lanes are managed by the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. And so we build them, MTC operates them. And there's actually a program within, it's actually through what's called like a Clipper Start program, but it's basically providing discounts for anyone in terms of eligible people that would be able to use the express lanes. And so that's a program that's happening right now throughout the Bay Area in terms of like focusing on income and eligibility and making sure that people does have access to these lanes. And so that's a program that's focused on equity in MTC. And I know that 680 Corridor is an upcoming pilot with MTC to implement that program in this corridor.
It's expected to come to fruition?
I can get back to you on that. I don't have the exact dates.
And a quick question, what studies have been done to show that by adding an additional carpool lane is actually going to reduce traffic? Because I know in some instances, in some places, it's actually caused more traffic. So I'm just wondering what your data is derived from. And how-
Yes. So in the project development process that we go through, we do rigorous, traffic impact analysis on multiple alternatives. And so particularly in this corridor, we actually studied, I think, 5 alternatives in this corridor. All of them ranged from, a carpool lane to, which is basically a regular, carpool lane that anyone can access. We also looked at express lanes, but then we also looked at some, I'll say, more aggressive strategies in the corridor. And this is really about complying with current state policy. So right now in the state of California, I don't know how much time we have on this, but I mean, I'm happy to go into details about
Go ahead
transportation.
and finish the thought.
So, but in the state of California right now, there's a huge focus on climate change and reduction of greenhouse gases and what's called vehicle miles traveled, reduction of vehicle miles traveled. And so there were additional strategies that were basically analyzed as part of the project, including actual general purpose lane conversion. So basically taking an existing lane and converting it into a carpool lane or an express lane, which CCTA does not support that, but these are strategies that the state is really pushing on projects like this. And so we did a rigorous analysis of all the traffic for the project, and happy to share that. We have, we have tons of information and slide decks that we have in terms of sharing this information. And so, but we found that this particular alternative that we have recommended for construction and for approval was the most cost-effective and most traffic, provide the most traffic or reduce the traffic congestion and benefit in the corridor as we went through our analysis. And so as we look at, morning and afternoon peak period traffic, and we look at each lane, and we look at basically vehicle hours, what's called vehicle per hour per lane, which is like level of service or density. But we do go through this rigorous analysis using real-time traffic to do this analysis to really determine what these alternatives should be for each of the projects.
Thank you.
So the next project is Shared Mobility Hub, which is actually more focused at the end of this presentation. But as we think about, what we're doing with the transportation system and how to make it more connected and really focusing on that first and last mile, getting to and from the corridor, we see Shared Mobility Hubs as really part of the community, placemaking, and also resiliency in the system to making sure people have access to all forms of mobility within their community. And these would range in sizes. So you'd have large Shared Mobility Hubs like a BART station. You could have community hubs that are more access in terms of neighborhoods and deep in the community that really are providing all kinds of mobility options. And some of these mobility options could include, connectivity to transit, as you can kind of see on this particular graphic, and also focusing on bike share programs, which I know has been used here in San Ramon, but also focused on parking management, curbside management, as well as developing opportunities, coffee shops, et cetera. But this is really about attracting people to transportation in basically more meaningful ways, but also focusing on prioritizing, transit and other modes across corridors. Also focusing on safer walking and biking as we think about the vulnerable road users in these corridors. How are we protecting those vulnerable road users to get to these Shared Mobility Hubs? And so all of this is really focusing on how to provide and bring transportation mobility options to the community rather than kind of going and looking for them, right? And so it's really so that we have developed a plan to develop roughly about 36 Shared Mobility Hubs across the entire county to really think about how to bring these first and last mile mobility options to people to provide more access to transportation and personalized mobility options. The other project we're really focusing on is technology projects. CCTA is actually known as a leader in technology in the state of California and even nationally. And one of the projects that we're talking about is really bringing in kind of more forward-thinking, next-generation ramp metering. You may be familiar with ramp metering on Highway 4 or even on the I-80 corridor, but this is really next-generation ramp metering where we're actually coordinating the traffic among the different ramps in the corridor. And really balancing the traffic across the entire corridor, making sure there's minimized or no backup on local roads, and really designing the ramps to making sure there's enough storage so that there are no backup on local roads. So it's really a design philosophy, but also leveraging new technologies and richer data sets to really understand what's happening in the corridor in real time and be able to manage these corridors proactively. And so rather than just kind of relying on the light to just turn red and green, it's really has a really smart infrastructure or smart brain behind the system that's able to change the ramp metering rate and actually coordinate. So for example, let's say, for example, there's a ramp that has a long queue on it, right? And let's say that the upstream ramp has a short queue. It would hold the upstream ramp longer, and then it would flush the downstream ramp. And so that's coordinating the traffic and access in terms of congestion. This is a really new strategy. This is new technology in the state of California and in the United States that we're importing from Australia, who are very innovative. And this is actually the limits of the project that we're focusing on is in the blue project on the right-hand side. The bottom right-hand side is the northbound, what we call phase 1. And this is going to be the first pilot phase of this project to bring in this more coordinated adaptive ramp metering to be able to manage this congestion and congestion going up to the bottleneck. And so if you can think about a funnel and you think about a cup of rice, and you take that cup of rice and you slowly pour it and the rice is coming out in even flow, that's what we're trying to achieve with ramp metering. We're trying to get even consistent flow in the corridor. But if you take a cup of rice and just dump it, you get a bottleneck, right? It just blocks. It blocks the opening. And so this is really about metering the traffic and keeping that consistent traffic flow on the corridor, thereby reducing congestion. And so in Australia, through their approach and their strategies and their technology, they've been able to realize at least 20% more efficiency in their corridors, which is a whole nother lane, without having to widen their corridors. And so this is a good example of how technology can be a very cost-effective way to manage the system and manage the corridor. The other project we're working on is the coordinated adaptive traffic signal system. And so we're working with the city of San Ramon and all the local jurisdictions along the corridor, taking that same approach with ramp metering and taking and looking at how we can really make our traffic signals smarter and really more adaptive, and also really adapting in real-time traffic conditions. And so I know for me, when I'm sitting in a traffic signal and there's no vehicles and the light is red, I get frustrated, right? And so this is about dynamically changing traffic signals based on what's happening in real time through cameras and technology. But then also what's happening is now we're coordinating not just the ramp metering on the corridor, but now we're actually coordinating the traffic on the local roads, and now the whole system is coordinated. So now you're able to meter and really actively manage congestion across the entire system and not just the highway corridor. And then you tie all this with a mobility app. This is a project that we'll be releasing later this year. But this is, you think about all these mobility options and all of the technology in the corridors, we really want a one-stop shop, similar to like a Google Maps on steroids, that really helps you plan your trip, schedule your trip, pay for your trip, and also offer real-time information during your trip, both offered to people driving as well as people using transit and other forms of transportation, and then really offer all of these assets in the corridor. Everything from carpooling to car sharing, bicycle sharing, transit, shared autonomous shuttles, dynamic parking, electric vehicle charging, as well as Uber and Lyft. And so really, rather than going to 6 different apps on your phone, you're going to like one-stop shop to really plan your trip and connect you to all of these transportation options in the corridor and in the county.
So let's go back. Thanks. Mobility on demand. I've been hearing about this for last 6 years or 8 years, something like that. Is there any progress happened in this last 6 years on this one?
So specific to this project or just kind of in general?
On this whole mod.
So mobility on demand, it takes on several definitions. There's a lot of things called mobility on demand, but this is specific to mobility as a service. And so this type of integration of all of these apps and mobility options has really, there's only a few examples in the country that actually has done it successfully. There's one example in DART in Dallas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there's another one in Ohio. This is probably, I think, and there's another one in TriMet in Portland, Oregon. This is probably the 4th or 5th program in the United States. And this is actually funded by a Federal Transit Administration grant and Federal Highways Administration, because they see this as very innovative and something as a model that could be adopted across the country for other local jurisdictions.
Okay. So that's good to know that already some jurisdictions already have it. See, my test for transportation, local transportation, is I asked my son to take a bus to his school. It's 1 mile. It takes around 30+ minutes for 1 mile to get to his school. So that means our local transportation is not meeting our requirement. That's my basic litmus test. Now, I've been hearing about this mod for last 6 or 8 years. I just want to know, it's great that Dallas and other jurisdictions did all this great work, but I want to know what is done within our jurisdiction. I would love to know what is being done so far.
So this project has been implemented fully yet. So this project involves multiple stakeholders, involves BART. And so this project, we've been integrating all of these mobility options together as well as working with BART. And so this project will be deployed and available basically in a small, I'll call it beta user test, probably later this year in November. And then it'll be roughly available to about 1,000 users just to do a beta test. And then once we do work the program out with those 1,000 users, then we would understand the successes, what's working, what's not working, and then do a broader deployment along the entire corridor and even potentially across Contra Costa County.
So are we looking around in next 2 years or?
So November of this year.
That is beta program, right?
Yeah, the beta program.
Right.
Oh, in terms of the broader scale?
Broader scale.
Yeah, so the beta program is 8 months.
8
And
months,
so
okay.
after that 8-month period, we'll do a program evaluation. So I would see more broader deployment, probably, sometime in, late 2026, early 2027.
Thank you.
I have a question. Hi. Just a quick question. In these areas like Dallas and Ohio, where they democratized, I'll use that word, democratized the application, were their transit system as disjointed as the Bay Area's? Or did they have, like here in the Bay Area, we have AC Transit, we have BART, you name it, it's even different rail lines.
So in those particular areas, they were done with by basically single large metropolitan transit operators,
Okay.
and so I think that the work that we're doing here in Contra Costa County is actually really important.
Yeah.
Like I will say so to give credit to our transit operators, in Contra Costa County, we are leading the way in terms of coordinating transit in the Bay Area. I can say with the transit operators we work with, we've got a strong partnership with them. They are actually being very innovative in terms of looking for more efficient ways to deliver service. One way of that is actually the one-seat ride, which is actually an accessible transportation service, which is actually very groundbreaking in the Bay Area as well as nationally, to the point where FTA is really trying to learn from County Connection and our 4 transit operators here. And so yeah, I think you can say disjointed, but I would say that Contra Costa County is really the model in terms of really coordinating this. And I think there's, as you think about, and this gets into other, again, I don't know how much time we have, but, after the pandemic, there is a significant amount of reduction in ridership on transit because people are working from home. And so you have this transit fiscal cliff that's occurring. So in order to really bring in, really transit, you talk about 30 minutes, it's really going to require, significant investment. Like if you look at other states across the country, the state of California is one of the lowest in the country in terms of investing in public transportation from a state funding perspective. And so when you look at other states across the country, very much like 20-30% more in terms of transit funding. And with more funding, you get more frequent service, better service, more reliable service. And so that's what's really going to take. And so as we think about the future, it's really going to take that as a significant investment, both locally, but also at the state level as well, to really make transit work. And I think in the meantime, our transit operators are really, quite frankly, really doing the best they can with what they have in terms of the resources they have. And I think if we really want transit to be better, it's going to take decisions among all of our decision makers in Contra Costa County to say, we want better and we're ready to invest to get what we want.
Thank you.
But yeah, for me, when I see all those empty buses roaming around in the city, that shows me that we are not even thinking anything other than whatever was done past like 50, 60 years or 80 years back. I don't think we have any way even looking at the solution with what current needs, how we can solve our current problems. Looks like we are just stuck with the same mindset, because I do see buses running around the city, empty city, or like maybe 1 or 2 person. So maybe we need to start thinking about different out-of-box solutions. So not the same 80 years old thought process.
Yeah, there's multiple challenges with that, and we'll have a whole study session to talk about that. But I think really thinking about new business models, new ways of delivering transit, all of those things, it's not out of the question. I think it's really about dealing with governance, dealing with unions and labor, as well as really making sure we've got the right investments, in transit and how we want to, and adding investment to transit. So, and I would say that the Innovate 680 program really is being done in partnership with our transit operators to really think about how we can, innovate transit. And actually, I have a few projects here about that. And also, we're doing in partnership with the transit operators, we're doing what's called an integrated transit plan, and to really think about that exact thing in terms of how can we really think about what does our existing service look like today? What do those existing needs and markets look like today and in the future? And where do those investments need to be to make transit more, more of the gold star, as you're kind of talking. But as you know, transit across the entire county, user acceptance is different no matter where you go. And so as you think about our suburban areas, our more urban areas, as well as our rural areas, transit's going to look different no matter where you go, depending on where you're at in Contra Costa County.
Yeah, it can be different, but it should meet the needs of the residents, right? End of the day. Then otherwise, why I need any service that it's just running by itself? We are putting like tons of money in that and not meeting our residents' requirements. What is the use?
I just was wondering what revenue sources, I mean, I hear you saying that we need more money, we need more investment. What revenue sources are you thinking of tapping into? What options are you looking at? Because right now, with the cost of living continuing to go up and so much financial market uncertainty, how do you foresee where are you going to drive more money from?
It's a very tough challenge. I don't have a good answer for you, but I think it's a combination of thinking about, how are we using our existing revenues and sources today? And then I think if we want more and we want more service, then it is going to take additional investment. And so I think as we think about Measure J and CCTA, right now our measure actually expires in 2034. So we will be going to ballot eventually based on the approval of the authority board, and Mayor Armstrong has just been recently appointed to CCTA. And so the board will have discussions in the very near future, this year and next year, about, how do we want to think about, continuing the existence of Measure J, which obviously provides great value to the community today, like your traffic school bus program. And then thinking about, okay, well, to your point, where are those priorities? What are the priorities of the community? Where do they have those needs? And where do we want to invest that funding in the future? And so that's all going to be done as part of that conversation with the CCTA Authority Board, as well as our stakeholders, including all of the 19 cities and towns, as well as the county, and also our transit operators. So there's a big conversation coming in terms of how we want to invest in transportation in Contra Costa County in the next 4 years.
Thank you.
All right. Keep on going. I know you got a lot more.
No, it's okay. I can be here all night. I love this topic. So, in terms of being innovative, and I think, like we were talking about in terms of, making the system more reliable and making transit, more reliable, I think it's really going to make really key, tough decisions around how to prioritize transit. Like a big part of transit sits in congestion. And if transit is sitting in congestion, then no one's going to take it, because I could rather drive and rather than sit in traffic, right? And so this is a big conversation around, if we want to prioritize transit and get people into buses and really improve the reliability of the system, we have to prioritize transit in our corridors, both on the highway corridors as well as our local corridors. And so this is a great example where we're going to be leveraging the existing outside shoulder to really an innovative way, basically existing space that's already available to us, a very cost-effective way to prioritize transit in this corridor. And so there was a pilot down in San Diego on the 805 that just recently implemented this with great success. And so this is another project that we're looking at in Contra Costa County, as well as in 680, to really think about how we're prioritizing transit in these corridors and making it more reliable and more user-friendly. The other in combination with that is really the 680 express bus service. And so as you think about connectivity in the corridor in San Ramon is kind of hard to get to, in terms of transit. And so what we're talking about in partnership with County Connection and LAFTA is really thinking about providing more high frequency transit in the 680 corridor, using bus on shoulder, connecting the Martinez Amtrak, the Walnut Creek BART, Bollinger Canyon Park and Ride, which we'll get in today, as well as the Dublin BART station. And so really having that connectivity and better connectivity to San Ramon to be able to have access to rail and regional rail for the city of San Ramon. The other project, this is the last project of the system. This is the automated driving system project. This is something we're extremely proud of. CCTA is groundbreaking in terms of innovating in this space and working with our partners. We've identified 4 pilots in this corridor, the Presto Martinez project, and I'm not going to get into too much details here. I'm happy to ask questions later. The Presto Rossmore project, as well as the Presto Bishop Ranch project. I have a short video to basically describe what these projects look like. So these are ongoing pilots in the corridor. It's no doubt that this technology, we believe in this technology. We really believe in leveraging it for first and last mile and providing better access to our transit and highway and infrastructure, transportation infrastructure system. And so this is really what we're thinking in terms of, like, to your point, Member Veros, is like, what are we going to do different, right? We see this as like a solution to really bring in that first and last mile on demand Uber and Lyft experience into the public transportation system and really feed and extend transit beyond the fixed routes and into the neighborhoods, into the communities, and really bring those people down to those fixed routes, including the 680 corridor, so we can provide access. Now, this is also going to include additional investment, 100%, but these are really innovative business models, and it doesn't come short with challenges. Both the technology has its challenges, regulatory has its challenges, and also labor has its challenges. And I think in partnership with County Connection, the Martinez Hospital project, we worked closely with the Amalgamated Transit Union, and we were the first agency in partnership with County Connection and the Amalgamated Transit in the country to actually train bus drivers to become autonomous vehicle operators. And so, you know, this is a real challenge, I think, for our transit operators as they're trying to address, you know, the bus drivers, their bus driver shortages, their labor, but how are we going to upskill and reskill these existing jobs into jobs like this, so that way we're not, you know, reducing or eliminating jobs, we're actually providing hopefully better jobs. And so I think a big part of this is going to be thinking about how to leverage this technology, but integrating in the transportation system and working with our partners around how we are doing that in the future. Because like I said, it does not come without challenges, as well as additional investment in the community.
So the plan is to, this sounds really exciting, and thanks
Everyone
for
loves
sharing.
this.
Thanks for sharing that. Is the plan is for only specific areas within San Ramon, or is this going to be for everyone within San Ramon?
So as you think about shared mobility hubs, I mean, shared mobility hubs really needs to be the anchor, right, in terms of what these mobility options are going to be able to provide. And so the idea is you have these 36 shared mobility hubs, you have these access zones, and then you have a combination of both local fixed route transit as well as on-demand first and last mile within those micro access zones that are then providing service into those shared mobility hubs. And then those shared mobility hubs are there to help provide those transfers from local trips to regional trips and provide that seamless connectivity.
Okay, it's like too much jargon for me. So you're saying that it will be only to specific hubs.
So like
Presto will be driving around with specific hubs. From there, it will be, again, depends on the future micro mobility.
Yeah, so you have the share mobility hub, and if you have and I've got a slide on this, but basically you've got, you know, this kind of 2 mile, you know, kind of travel shed. And so the idea is that, you know, from your home or from a particular stop near your home that you can walk to, the shuttle would come pick you up and take you to, you know, transit, take you to take you to the downtown area, or connect you to BART. And so the whole idea is to really have this first and last mile opportunity across the entire county. including BART stations, the shared mobility hubs, downtown areas, hospitals, schools, all of those types of things, is really focusing on how we, so our vision, and of course it comes with its challenges, our vision is to deploy roughly about 100 shuttles or so, if not more, to really bring those people and really extend the commute shed or travel sheds, to really bring those people into fixed route. Like you were saying, buses, are are empty, some are actually highly utilized. Like there are corridors in our county, like Monument and Concord, that have 20-minute service, highly utilized. And so when you think about the areas where we have maybe lower utilization, how can we think about bringing people to transit? And this is a good opportunity to do that. Sounds good.
So how are you determining like what are priority areas where you want to deploy these automated vehicles?
So that's a good question. I think we're really sorting through that governance structure. I mean, there's a lot of challenges with deploying this type of technology, working with our trans operators, working with labor. And so I think from a priority standpoint, we see Bishop Ranch as one of those kind of priorities, because you've got this community here, you're expanding housing. And so that's really the whole vision around the Shared Mobility Hub here in Bishop Ranch, is thinking about, okay, how do we use the Shared Mobility Hub to connect you to transit routes like County Connection? And then how do we bring people from the community down to the Shared Mobility Hub to be able to connect to, buses and transit, right? And so we see Bishop Ranch as really a model of that. And then Rossmore is also another place where we see opportunities in terms of the senior community loves these things because they get their independence back, they get their quality of life back. And so as we have our growing aging population, we're thinking about, how do we expand those mobility options for that community to be able to continue their independence and quality of life.
Thank you.
Yeah. And no doubt a program like this takes many partners. And so I want to recognize again the city of San Ramon. They've been a fantastic partners. Also, I think Andy Smith is in the room with County Connection. And County Connection has been a really great, fantastic partner in this as well. And particularly around the express bus program in the 680 corridor. We also have a governance structure that really helps provide input from all stakeholders. This is the overall schedule, and so we're in that implementation phase now. You see the green is all of the design, the blue is construction, and so now we're moving from planning into the implementation phase on all of these projects. And so it's a really exciting time. And I will say the 680 corridor is going to have a lot of construction in it, but over the period of time by 2028, you will still see a significant investment in the corridor and also a reduction in congestion. And what's really important about this program is that you can't focus on just one of these projects. It's being delivered as a program coordinated approach in terms of projects. So having that coordinated approach is what is bringing that multimodal vision into the corridor. So Shared Mobility Hub feasibility study. So we conducted the feasibility study to identify multiple shared mobility hubs across the entire corridor. And as I mentioned, the Shared Mobility Hubs is really thinking about how to provide more resiliency, more safety, accessibility, access to alternative transportation modes, but also these mobility hubs become community assets, farmer market, places for farmer markets, places where people can come and do concert in the park. I mean, this is about making placemaking in transportation and making it accessible to all. So, and then also thinking about how to leverage new technologies as well as new business models to deliver these shared mobility hubs. And so as you think about the existing San Ramon Transit Center, this is what it was like I'm talking about in terms of the travel shed. You think about the walking shed, and then you think about the bike shed, and then if you also think about the shared autonomous vehicle microtransit shed, which approximately be about a 5-mile radius. And so what you think about the shared mobility hub, this is actually all the existing trips in the morning that are actually leaving the hub and going into and making regional trips in Contra Costa County and into San Francisco. And so this is another reason why we need these regional share mobility hubs that are really connecting people to not just San Ramon, but to other places across the entire county. So right now, as part of this project, we're really focused on 2 locations in Bishop Ranch. The first one is the San Ramon Transit Center. The other one is BR3. And the reason why we're looking at 2 alternative locations at this moment is because relative to access and walking and biking and commute and walking and biking pathways, we wanted to look at an alternative that actually was closer to the city center area. I know that our transit partners like it, that it's closer to the city center. It's actually a shorter distance to getting on and off the highway as well. So we looked at multiple benefits. We also looked at existing regional plans, such as the Planberry 2050, which is a plan that's being done by our Metropolitan Planning Organization, our Metropolitan Transportation Commission, as well as our local countywide transportation plan. And then also, like I said, focused on improved walking and biking in the corridor. And so we're looking at two separate alternatives. And these are what these alternatives look like. So the first one is the San Ramon Transit Center. And as you can see, what we're doing is we're bringing in lots of amenities. This is way more than just providing a park and ride. This is really providing those transit amenities, bicycle amenities, pedestrian amenities, and I'll get into this in a minute. But really thinking about how, again, we're connecting the community to mobility and making it easier for people to walk and bike and have access to transportation, but also give people reliable travel times. So for example, I know that I was actually standing on a curb waiting for a shuttle to arrive, and I'm going like, wow, it would be really nice to actually have a sign that says this is when the next shuttle is going to arrive, and it's little things like that, right, that can make the system more customer friendly because it adds more reliability and more certainty, right, rather than standing and be like, and just waiting for the bus or waiting for a shared autonomous vehicle or whatever the case. So really tying people to knowing what's happening in the system through either the mobile app or through wayfinding or through electronic signage. And so that also takes an investment as well. And so also making sure that we've got the right improvements, and every shared mobility hub is going to look and feel differently, right? Depending on the land uses, depending on what's next to it, depending on what it's serving, the type of people it's serving. This is not a one size fits all solution. The Bishop Ranch BR3 has similar amenities as the other one does. And again, this is really about access and circulation. That's why we're looking at this location. And so as you think about, Camino Ramon, and you think about the access from 680 and getting on and off 680 and access to the Shared Mobility Hub to be able to help improve on-time performance and access, we're looking at two alternative locations. And we're also doing this again in partnership with the city as well as with our transit operators. And just getting into the amenities, just really quickly, briefly, I'm just going to flash these for a moment. But, the transit amenities, as I mentioned earlier, real-time travel information, as well as what we call transit signal priority. So again, prioritizing transit to these locations, but also making sure that there's proper bulb out, so buses and transit are not blocking existing local streets, but also making sure there's proper charging for all forms of vehicles. And then also bicycle amenities. So we have charging stations, we've got bike share programs, shared micromobility programs, as well as like repair stations. And then we also obviously have very improved pedestrian amenities, wider sidewalks, pedestrian overcrossings like Bollinger, and also making sure we got public space where people can come and enjoy themselves in the community and really with others that also have access to these shared mobility hubs. And then you also have the motorized services. We don't want to forget about the car, right? I mean, we want to focus on alternative modes, but we also want to make sure that we have electric vehicle charging, car share, making sure we're focusing on easier access in terms of curbside management for pickup and drop off, and then real-time parking availability and just making it easier to park your car and making it easier to get there. And so as well as like parking reservation systems. And then just broader support services, Wi-Fi at these shared mobility hubs, device charging, package delivery stations. So as you start thinking about the future in terms of how goods will be delivered in different types of modes, whether that be like a robot going down the sidewalk delivering a freight, like you'll need those centralized locations to deliver goods and services and then be able to distribute them through other types of modes. But information kiosks, making sure things are available to people, know that people want to go to. Retail, coffee shops. I remember when we started talking about shared mobility hubs, we immediately had a very well-known Dutch Brothers Coffee approached us. Hey, we want to be part of this, so it brings in retail, it brings in economic development, it brings in community investment, with these shared mobility hubs. And this is the schedule. So right now, this has a multiple funding options, both regional measure 3 as well as state funding. And right now we're working on the concept development, and really Stephanie is leading the way on this in terms of, the environmental clearance is actually due to be done later this year, and then design will be done next year and into 2027. And so we'll be looking to construct the shared mobility hub in later of 2027. I also want to say that we really appreciate the partnership with the city of San Ramon, Bishop Branch. We have our own personal Redefine Mobility Summit. I highly recommend that you all come. We have a really great 4 panels, one focused on workforce development to talk about the very things that we were talking about in terms of labor and how to address those issues. Innovative transit business models is a panel we have. Future cities. So we invited some of the most futuristic and innovative cities across the country to the Redefine Mobility Summit, and then also focusing on kind of next generation autonomous vehicles. And we have a demo zone featuring all our partners, as well as a student showcase. So CCTA actually funds STEM programs. We partner with a number of high schools in Contra Costa County. We actually fund an all-girls robotics club. We fund an all-girls Lead the Way STEM Day. We actually donated an autonomous shuttle to Pittsburgh High School. And so we do a lot of investment into the local and really attracting the younger generation into this space and into the community, because transportation is changing. Transportation is very exciting. There's really a cross-section of technology, mobility, all coming together at once. And so it's a very exciting time being in transportation. And then thank you for the time. I know pretty sure I overspent my welcome here, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I'm happy to do any follow-up that you might like as well, and really appreciate the opportunity for being here and talking a little about CCTA and the Innovate 680 program.
All right, thank you, Tim. Before we go on to public comment, let's see if we've got any additional questions from the council, and I'll kind of start down with Councilmember Schwena.
Thank you for the presentation. It's very informative. The question about a couple of them, but really quick about safety. What jurisdiction, if something happens on one of these buses, who's responsible? Is it the city where the occurrence happens, since it's CCTA, or is it CHP? Who controls that jurisdiction for safety purposes?
That's a tough question. It really depends on the incident. But if something happens like on a bus, it would be liability of the bus operator. And so that falls on the trans operator. But obviously if there's an accident with the city, that's city, but it just depends on the incident. But if something happens on the bus or the bus has an incident itself, then the liability really falls on the trans operator or the other party involved.
I see. But these buses are owned by CCTA?
No. So let's time out. Yeah. So Andy would kill me if I said that.
All right.
So Contra Costa Transportation Authority, we don't own or operate anything.
Okay.
Right. And it's not our goal to own or operate anything. Our goal is to help provide funding, planning, as well as helping provide the tools to help them manage and connect these services. And so now we're happy to step into gaps, if no one was willing to. But generally we want to rely on our trans operators. We want to rely on the cities to be able to be that operator, and we're basically there to connect and manage those things. So we don't operate or maintain anything. Now, the shared mobility hubs, that potentially could be an opportunity where CCTA steps into a shared O&M role with multiple people. So for example, the shared mobility hub here in San Ramon, your city manager and CCTA, we've talked about is there a shared O&M role here between the city and transit and CCTA, et cetera, and including Bishop Branch. And so I think there's, so right now we don't own and operate any buses. That's all done by County Connection here in Central and South County, Tri-Delta Transit in East County, and then also WestCat in West Contra Costa County.
Is the idea to replace buses already with these self-autonomous buses?
No. So I think the idea is not to replace fixed route service. I think there's going to be a place for fixed route service. It's really about how do we get more utilization on fixed route, and how do we bring this first and last mile concept, to these fixed routes. We don't want to compete with fixed route. We're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot here. So the idea is to really leverage these new technologies to really feed service into these fixed routes and get higher ridership, higher utilization.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Adler.
Yeah, this is a fascinating subject that I've been learning kind of gradually and getting put on some committees and so on. But I'm trying to look at the whole kind of the big picture. Do you want to have these, there's different agencies of transportation. Do you want to have them all be able to talk to each other, or do you want to have a central agency that monitors everybody? So that the 680 corridor is one aspect, but then you have all these streets, funneling into 680. So you want to know where the transportation blocks are, different times of day. is the idea to be able to kind of have a overall plan for the entire area where, they all the areas kind of speak to each other, so you know where the problems are, and then you can prevent something, if you have a backup, you can learn how to prevent that, and so things kind of flow better.
Yeah, I would say the answer to that question is pretty much almost all of the above. And so I'll give you a few examples. So CCTA, as you think about a countywide smart signal system, right? And so some use cases that really apply here is CCTA just recently was awarded a grant for a countywide emergency evacuations plan and study. And so as we think about how we're going to, particularly in the La Miranda area and those when you've got really high risk fire areas, as well as deep into like Dollar Valley and, Black Hawk and those types of we've got real high fire risk. How can we coordinate, fire evacuation? And so as you think about the smart signal system and you think about coordinating these services like you're talking about, when you have incidents and events that are happening in the transportation system, we're using technology and working with our partners to help deal with those events in real time, whether that be on the highway or whether that be during an emergency or a local incident. And so the idea is there have been cities across the world, particularly like I saw an example in the city of Amsterdam, where they've been able to prioritize ambulances very effectively in their transportation system. And so if you can think about connecting like the hospital dispatch system to the transportation system, and we knew that there was a fire engine or ambulance that got dispatched from point A to point B, and we knew where that person was going, we can then prioritize and give that ambulance a green wave in the system rather than an ambulance trying to navigate red, green, red, green, red, green. We can make the system more safe in terms of really prioritizing that ambulance in the system. And that's where this coordination and monitoring really kind of starts happening. And so the idea is that, you're not only prioritizing, ambulances, but we're also prioritizing buses, we're prioritizing fire trucks. And as you think about like evacuation and emergencies, what's going to be the best way of doing that? Well, it's going to be about using Bollinger Canyon in a one-way couplet and bringing everyone down Bollinger Canyon. And how do we leverage our smart signal system, and how do we work with our transit operators to really have the most effective evacuation plan that's coordinated to be able to provide better safety for our residents here in Contra Costa County. So there's a lot of angles to the different use cases in terms of how we're going to coordinate and manage a lot of these things.
So the plan would be to have the smart transportation devices would be uniform throughout the area. So everybody can talk to each other. There's no different system that would be a problem. I'm just trying to look ahead to see what the overall, where you really want to go with this whole thing. Because again, 680 is one thing, but all the feeder roads, that you have to go through to get to 680 is a problem. So,
yeah,
anyway.
that's exactly right. And so I think as we're looking at the major corridors like Bollinger Canyon, Crow Canyon, Ignatia Valley Road, all these major corridors, the idea is to look at, what are some of the best ways to manage transportation and even transit in those corridors. And some corridors are going to prioritize transit in different ways. Others might prioritize, better congestion in vehicles, and my other corridors might prioritize walking and biking, or there might be other corridors that's kind of doing it all. And so this really gets into this major multimodal planning, and the whole idea really is to address there's a lot of change in travel behavior on a daily basis now. I mean, if you look at after post-pandemic transportation, there's literally been a 50% increase in local trips, because people are working from home. You got more local trips. And then the state is asking local jurisdictions to put in more housing, and so you're not going to widen roads. And so what are we going to do about our transportation system in our local communities?
But is there going to be one entity that oversees the entire, in other words, you can see where all the issues are? Because if you rely on each entity, transportation entity to do their own thing, then that's not as efficient as having that information for the whole grid, so
yes, so
decisions can be made.
That's exactly right. So you'd have this traffic management center, right, for the entire county, that would be coordinating all these things together and providing data. Now, it's not to say that we're controlling things, or it's really talking about how to better serve and connect these different things together, you know, throughout all of the local jurisdictions.
So does that involve one, you know, transportation entity that has a building and you've got guys and women in there looking at monitors and,
I would say it involves multiple entities, but there would be like CCTA would have a regional traffic management center that would have, like you say, people and screens to be able to look and monitor and manage this transportation system overall throughout the entire county. But it would be coordinated with other operators, right? The trans operators, hospitals, all these things, and that gets into the more technical side of it, of like a systems to systems approach. So you have multiple transportation operators and systems, and you got them all coordinated in one location, basically.
thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
All right.
I can give you
Councilmember Rubio.
examples too. So
Go ahead.
Just a tad bit complicated. That's interesting to know, actually. So the only question I really want to have is, because I was asking along the way, so, but in terms of these sort of high frequency areas that we were talking about a little bit earlier, I mean, obviously healthcare facilities, colleges, we have like DVC here in San Ramon, even some high schoolers. How can, you know, going back to Vice Mayor Barros's comment, I mean, the frequency is an issue. What is the most affordable option? Do we put more regular buses along the main route, or do we default back to this Ride Presto as a backup? What are some of the options that you're considering? Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we want to get people on, you know, public transportation.
That's right.
That should become, hopefully one day, the default, not the secondary thought. So.
yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, there's a lot of challenges there. I mean, one, you know, if you want more buses, you want more frequency, so people don't have to think about schedules. They can just show up when the bus arrives. That takes a significant amount of funding, right? And so, but I think as we think about these like transportation corridors like Bollinger Canyon, I think what we want to do is really evaluate, to your question about what are some of the best options in this corridor, you know, and how do we best serve this corridor given its land uses, given its kind of character in the community, and who is this corridor actually serving? You know, is the corridor serving regional trips? Is it serving more local trips? And so it really, there's a number of factors involved in terms of how we want to, and so that's what we're doing as part of our updated to our countywide transportation plan, is to think about, you know, we need to identify, you know, we have what they're called routes of regional significance. And in those routes of regional significance, we need to go through and do corridor studies and plans to really understand, like, what's the best way, you know, because I think what we're missing in the conversation typically is that connection between land use and transportation. And so as we're building more housing, as we're looking at our existing land uses, you know, it's going to be really important to connect all those things together in transportation. So, you know, so that's, and I think that is where, you know, CCTA can work in partnership with the cities and the operators and all the stakeholders. It's going to take a partnership. It's not one entity. It's not one agency. It's a true partnership with everyone coming to the table and thinking about with one goal in mind, and that is what's the best way to move people in this corridor or in the community.
All right, Vice Mayor Rose.
Thanks for the presentation. So my first question regarding return to office, that becoming big item right nowadays, especially San Ramon residents, majority or significant number of them, they work in information technology in South Bay. And 680 is the key interstate that we, like, pretty much all the folks use that one to go to the South Bay. I myself use 680. So do you have any plans for this coming out with the return to office? And it's now people are saying 4 days, 5 days, right? So it will add a significant number of drivers on this 680. So do you have any plan for this, mitigate to this traffic?
So the question is do we have a plan for like remote work or control, or just, I'm trying to understand the question.
There will be huge increase pretty soon. That's what we see, because
Or people are coming back to work.
back to return to office. Now, because of the COVID, there was reduction in that, but now it is going to start. Like pretty much Amazon and many, even California State recently said that we need 4 days people to be in office, and many other companies now they are asking, right? So are we prepared on 680 to keep, like, to serve that kind of capacity?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So right now, we coordinate with Alameda County Transportation Commission, who's our counterpart in Alameda County, and CCTA, and we have a shared vision in terms of what the 680 corridor is going to look like. If you do go down the Sunol Pass, you know, there's actually active construction happening right now where they're completing a major gap in the express lane network. And so, yes, in terms of the studies, the analysis that we've done as part of Innovate 680, the strategies that we've presented to you tonight, that would basically address the demand that you're going to see in the future. And so, because the way we do traffic analyses is not, we just don't look at today, we look at growth, you know, out 20 years beyond the project. And so we're focusing on what that growth looks like, what development's going to be occurring, what type of trips there are. And and obviously this is a very sensitive analysis now because it's, you know, post-pandemic, travel patterns have changed. How are we addressing, you know, that work from home phenomenon? And then how are we addressing people that are coming back, you know? And so when we do our analysis, right now in our analysis, we look at 5 days a week, you know, people traveling, because it's really hard to predict which days of the week people are traveling. And so we basically are looking at full, you know, that demand across the entire corridor Monday through Friday. So, and we look at that projected traffic out 20 years in the corridor. So yes, the answer to your question is we're prepared based on the strategies that we've presented tonight.
Thank you. My second question is regarding San Ramon Mobility Hub. Do we have the required funding? If yes, how much funding is allocated for that? And also, do you have any timeline when we need to get that?
Yeah, so that was, so the San Ramon Bishop Ranch Share Mobility Hub is actually fully funded. It's actually funded with Regional Measure 3, which was passed in 2018, which was an increase on the tolls on the bridges. So that's money directly coming back to Contra Costa County for this project. And then also Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. And this is associated with the Express Bus project that we showed you earlier. So we did get a grant from the state. And so these two fund sources fully fund the Share Mobility Hub. And then Stephanie's been really good about getting other grants. And so basically we just recently got a grant to help fund the other Share Mobility Hubs across the entire corridor. And so this is the actual project schedule. And so right now we're wrapping up the concept development, which is what we've been presenting to you, which we came up with the 2 alternatives. And then we'll go through the environmental clearance in terms of, you know, all of the necessary regulatory and compliance, and then relative to CEQA and NEPA. And then we start the design of the project. And so all of this is fully funded. And so the idea is that by December 2028, that the Share Mobility Hub will be fully constructed and available to use, including those amenities for the project.
May I know how much is funding?
So what is this, Stephanie? That's one.
Well,
12 million. So $12 million.
And do we have a deadline for that to use
For the
that?
funding itself?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's obligation deadlines, but they're basically built into the schedule that we have here.
Schedule. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So we don't put the funding at risk.
my last question is transportation and traffic. That is one of the major concern that we always get from residents. Now, you play a very important role in providing transportation for our residents, right? So do you reach out to our community or get feedback? If yes, so how you are doing that one? I'm just
So
interested.
that's an excellent question. So we do engagement with the community all the time through public surveys. We actually did a very in-depth travel behavior study in this corridor about 2 years ago, and there's actually a video on our YouTube channel that you can watch and look at that in terms of how we're really thinking about travel behavior and as analyzing travel behavior, which we're leading in that space. And then also we do an annual community event series. And so We actually go into the community. Stephanie and I actually go in the community ourselves, and we have a booth and we talk and we go to farmers market, and particularly in San Ramon, we actually go to Truck Day in San Ramon. That's the largest event that we come to in San Ramon, to come engage and talk with the community. But in other parts of the county, we'll go to farmer markets or other events like the Lafayette Art and Wine Festival and those types of things. And so we are very much in the community. And if there's an opportunity for even me to come speak anywhere in the community, a Rotary Club or whatever the case may be, happy to support that in any way that I can to talk about transportation. But I think it's really important to hear from the public about what needs they have, and making sure that we're aligning investment and projects in the future with those needs. And we're going to be doing that through our countywide transportation plan. So this summer, we're going to have a very significant effort in terms of community engagement outreach, to help us decide where we're going to have those, what those needs are. We just recently completed a countywide survey asking the community what they want, what their needs are. And we're actually building that into some of the other engagement we're going to be doing this summer on the community event series, as well as the development of the countywide transportation plan. And so very top of mind in terms of working with the community.
So thank you. It will be great if you can have booth during our Art and Wind Festival. So that's one of our pretty popular events. So it will be great if you can set up a
Sure.
workshop.
Yeah, we can talk to Mr. Spadowski about that.
Cool. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, speaking of public comment is now open. Just stick around, Tim, but we're going to take public comment, and then maybe council will have some closing comments. Speaker cards.
We do have 2 speaker cards for this item. Greg Carr.
Okay, Mr. Carr.
Greg Carr, San Ramon resident. As usual, I didn't plan to speak, but I'm compelled to thank the speaker, Mr. Haley, for a very informed and experienced presentation. It's been a long time since I've seen something here that can give that much information to paint a person somewhat ignorant of the plan, a pretty good picture of what they plan to do. 25 plus years ago, when we were still over in the old city council building, I'd been on the council off for a couple of years, and I just gotten off the plane from Turkey. Matter of fact, Istanbul, a town called Bahçeşehir, where I was doing a project, power plant. And my wife said, hey, they're going to have an item about a toll, HOV on 680. And I'm going, well, that's nice. So again, she hooked me into it. I went down and I sat in. And they had a bunch of people from Caltrans and the county, not very informed, not very articulate, probably because most were engineers like me. And they were telling us about the HOV lane. They were going to take an existing lane paid for by taxpayers, turn it into an HOV lane. And as I do, I got a little irritated, let's put it that way, about that. Something wrong with it. So I spoke, and the point I made was, if you're Joe Blow, the janitor, and you're Mr. Big, who's vice president for a firm in Santa Clara Valley, if at the height of the traffic, Mr. Big, he's in his Tesla then, he's got the pass, he can afford it. Joe Blow he can't afford it. He's got a wife, 3 kids, just barely scratching by. And I heard that from the 2 of you. It's something to think about. That's a reality of life. The thing that I would urge you to do is, let's not operate in a vacuum with respect to the citizens here in town. I would urge you to take the community center and publicize a big presentation for all hands on deck down there. Invite Mr. Haley, to come down. He might want to truncate it a little bit, but it was good enough. And present this to the community, advertise it, send flyers out. and hear what they have to say when they're going to propose to take another lane paid by the community and turn it into HOV. Okay? It doesn't cost much. And I would urge you, even though this is a paltry, well, actually, that's a pretty good turnout here. I've seen it a hell of a lot less. But we need to have more people hear this so that you can make more informed decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Pascalis Dotsos.
All right. Good evening. 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, I get used to it. I didn't know what to do tonight. So thank you very much for the presentation. It was excellent. It was very complete. Just some feedback and maybe some questions that will pop up as much as I can. So my first question will be, planning something like this in that extent, when was the initial planning happening? Did it happen last year? Did it happen 5 years ago, 10 years ago? How this process to today's times and create that kind of infrastructure and detailed technology that supports the system? That's my first question. The second thing is, as the feedback from Ms. Rubio and Mr. Veroz, we were talking about how to connect the cities here in Contra Costa.
Yeah. Yes, address us, please.
All right. This is the question there. As we try to connect the cities here in Contra Costa, we're looking at the fees and the pricing of the express lanes and how that can affect the everyday commuter. For my basic knowledge of understanding what it is transportation. Transportation is taking me from point A to point B, make it safe, make it quick, and make it efficient. And as everybody's going to go back to work, how that is going to be efficient if right now current times can be $10 to pass an express lane, and then if the traffic will be higher, that means these fees on express lane is going to be much higher. So 5 and 10 and 15 years ago, we were talking about, yes, the city of San Ramon was expensive in a certain extent, and then we can move out to Livermore and find housing for the workforce that was coming to work here in San Ramon. Suddenly, Dublin, Livermore, Trace, even that became really expensive. So where these people that they work, but they cannot afford the city will come to support the business, the local business that they're here in San Ramon. How we can bring people from other cities to commute, to come here, enjoy all the amenities and the multi-space, multi-purpose things that they're going to build up. And we expect that's going to bring also revenue to the city. So what I'm trying to understand is I'm trying to understand the thinking process of the CCTA when they're planning something like this, but at the same time, in my mind, it just constricts people from moving from one city to another and becomes very challenging for people to actually work or come here and enjoy whatever San Ramon has to offer. So the other thing, and really quick, is I see a lot of infrastructure building for the buses and the routes and everything, but at the same time, we do not have the culture to take the bus. So I don't see a plan for bringing the people into the buses. Well, I see a plan where we create these high-frequency routes and what we need to build for people one day to go there. So in my mind, it doesn't actually make much sense. So that's me.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other speaker cards?
That was the last speaker card, and written public comment was received from Brian Swanson.
Right. We got that in the packet. Thank you. All right, then I will close public comment. I will turn it over now to council. Any final closing comments? And, if Mr. Hale, you just address the comments to ourselves and Mr. Hale here, if you've got any closing comments. Anyone?
I have.
All right. Thanks, Tim, for great presentation, and definitely your future plan is definitely pretty exciting. I'm looking forward, but then my concern still stays same, like as public comment.
The idea is the transportation should be feasible, economical, so that we should be able to transport our residents from one point to their destination. And that's where we lack big time. Personally, in Doughty Valley, not only Doughty Valley, in the San Ramon as such, if you ask majority of the parents, their life, half of their life is to drop and pick up their kids from the schools or from the events. This is the biggest challenge that we face because we don't have any local transportation. When I say feasible, workable transportation. And I hope the future parents, they can get some solution from you so that they can take their life back, half of their life, from dropping and picking these kids on these different places and that. And a lot of youth, they do miss a lot of these events because of transportation accessibility. Youth and seniors also, big time. Like I get a lot of complaints from the seniors that they cannot go to many of these events. Same thing with youth. There are like San Ramon is a vibrant community. We have tons of events that happen within our community, but a lot of these events are half empty because of mobility problems that we face. So I hope your solution that you shared that can help. Maybe my kids are anyway going out of school soon, so but future parents may have some relief from that. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, well, Tim, thank you very much. Appreciate the insights and the update on the Innovate 680 program, the shared mobility hubs, a lot of exciting things on the horizon. It's kind of bringing us into the 21st century and just some exciting things with respect to technology. You've heard some of the comments here, some of the challenges and concerns about access and that sort of thing. But we appreciate your time here. I'll give you a chance for one final comment, but perhaps after this, if you could maybe get with our second speaker, Mr. Pashalis, and maybe address the question that he had.
Do you want me to address it now or just get with him?
Why don't you can get with him afterwards, but if you have
Okay.
anything for us, I'll give you one final word.
Yeah, so I think relative to, I think a lot what the speaker was saying in terms of, what's happening in the corridor, I think main thing is travel time savings. So I think what's going to be really important is we're talking about economical and feasible, and that really is going to come down to transit. That's really what's going to become economic feasible. So how do we make transit more economical, more feasible in these corridors? And then also, I think from an express lane standpoint, as we think about, I mentioned some of the programs that we're thinking about implementing in the corridor to make it more feasible for others to take the express lane. But I will say, I was just talking with Stephanie, but there is travel time savings and benefits in the entire corridor. I just want to emphasize that as much as there's one lane and an express lane, and I also want to emphasize that we are not taking a general purpose lane to build the express lane. So that alternative was ruled out. We are not considering that alternative. It's being rejected as an alternative. And so this project will be looking at adding a lane to be able to add the express lane. And so that's the other comment I wanted to address. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else I'm missing?
Town hall.
So, and the town hall. So happy to do the town hall. I think it's a really exciting opportunity to come talk to the public, and I'm happy to do this shortened presentation. But I do think in the future, as we're doing our countywide transportation plan, as I mentioned, we do plan on doing a lot of engagement, whether that be town halls, but also, coffee meetings or whatever the case may be. A big role of my role in this is going to be really getting into the community and working with folks like you to really understand what your needs are in the community. And so I'm excited to address that and do the town hall or however you'd like to do that and talk to your community about these projects and about these exciting programs.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you for the
Very
opportunity,
informative.
and I appreciate everyone's patience. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. With the okay of the council, I'd like to take a 5-minute break. And then we will resume with the next item, item 9.2, regarding the establishing fees and charges for various municipal services for the FY 25-26. Let's take a 5-minute break. I'm going to call us back from a quick recess, and we're going to get on now with item 9.2. This is establishing fees and charges for various municipal services for fiscal year 25-26. Repealing resolution number 2024-051 and setting public hearing on April 22nd. All right, Joe, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor Armstrong, Vice Mayor Veros, and council members. It's an honor for me to present the city's 25-26 fiscal year master fee schedule. Now let's dive in. The city has a total of 978 fees, of which 487 fees remain unchanged. 478 fees are adjusted, and 13 new fees are added. Now let's take a look at the adjusted fees. There are 347 fees adjusted based on Consumer Price Index, or CPI, with a rate of 3.53%. It includes those 31 full cost recovery fees under City Council direction from last fiscal year, and 28 fees are adjusted based on Construction Cost Index, which is CCI, with a rate of negative 0.7%. And 103 fees are adjusted based on special circumstances, such as cost per square foot, Parks Commission recommendation, and council authorization. Now let's take a look at the special circumstances. At the police department, there are 2 fees waived for San Ramon residents. These fees are car seats inspection fees and citation sign-up fees. These fees are authorized from the prior council. At the building division, there are 13 fees adjusted based on construction cost method, which is cost per square foot. At Parks and Community Services, 88 fees are adjusted based on Parks Commission recommendation and special events. We're going to take a look at the 3 special event permit applications that staff meet council's directions. These 3 application fees are Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Let me give you a brief explanation of what these tiers are. Tier 1 is when an application is submitted. It needs Parks and Community Services to process. Tier 2 is when an application is submitted. It needs Parks, Community Services, and Police Department to process because there might be traffic control involved. Tier 3 is when an application is submitted. It takes multiple city departments, the county, and the fire district to process. In 2024, council approved to have a 2-phase approach for full cost recovery. The Parks Commission proposed to have a 4-phase approach. The 2-phase approach is to, the city will achieve full cost recovery in 2 fiscal years, which are fiscal year 2024, 2025, and fiscal year 2025 and 2026. If we're going with a 4-phase approach, the city will achieve full cost recovery in 4 fiscal years instead. These fiscal years are from fiscal year 2024, 2025, all the way to fiscal year 2027 to 2028. Now let's take a look at Tier 1 in the details in fees. As you can see in this PowerPoint, the first year is the base year 2023, 2024. Under the two approaches, the fees is the same. And the two-phase approach started fiscal year 24, 25. Under the two approaches, there's no difference. If we're going with the two-phase approach, the city will recover the full cost of $440 in fiscal year 25, 26. With a four-phase approach, the city will recover the full cost in fiscal year 27, 28. And let's take a look at Tier 2. The concept is similar to Tier 1. The city will recover the full cost of $970 in fiscal year 25, 26 under the two-phase approach. With a four-phase approach, we will recover the full cost in fiscal year 27, 28. And lastly, the Tier 3 fee is the same concept with Tier 1 and Tier 2. So if we're going with two-phase approach, the city will recover the full cost of $3,101 in fiscal year 25, 26. With a four-phase approach, this full cost will recover in fiscal year 27, 28. And that's it. Any questions?
All right, let's open it up for staff or council questions. Let me start down with council members Reyna.
Thank you for the presentation. It was informative. So the question is, the decision is whether we take the two-phase approach or the four-phase approach?
Yes, please.
What was the logic behind the four-phase approach? I'm just, was there, because on paper, yeah, we want to get the money faster in 2 years, but there must be a reason for the 4 years.
Yes, the Parks Commission proposed the four-phase approach because of the substantial financial impact. So they suggested to split the cost over the 4 fiscal years instead of 2.
I see.
That's why.
Okay, that was the reason.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the CPI index 3.5, which makes sense to me. I understand that part. Okay. I may have another question later, but I'll pass it on, Mayor, to next speaker, next council member.
Mayor Sullivan.
So I guess my question will be from the opposite end of Councilmember Joinette's question. What would be the impact to the city by us waiting 2 additional years to cover, fully recover our costs?
Then the city will need to compromise the fees that we collected for the service that we provide. So for example, if we do a 2-phase approach, we get the full cost in fiscal year 25, 26. But if you look at the 4-phase approach, for fiscal year 25, 26, we will collect $327 instead.
Right, but what is the net numbers on that? Like, what is the setback to the city in those 2 additional years by phasing it out over 4 years versus 2 years? Because the reason I'm asking that is because obviously we just went through Measure N and passing that, and we still don't know quite yet what those revenues are, really fully going, how they're going to be realized. So what I'm trying to understand is what sort of that burden on behalf of the city's expenses that we will be taking on if we extend it out another 2 years during that time.
Yeah, kind of like based on a
Let's have-
historical
yeah,
average of the number of tier 1, 2, and 3 events we have.
What would be that burden over those additional 2 years that we'd be holding out?
Let's have May at Parks Community Services to answer your question.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Council. Just to clarify a few points regarding our special events. For Tier 1 and Tier 2, we budget approximately 4 events each per tier. For Tier 3, that's our largest type of special event, which we forecast about 2. So typically every year, for example, Durga Puja, Maya Bazaar, those are our 2 big special events. If Bishop Ranch holds a run, that would also be considered a Tier 3 special event. So we don't have that many per year, but the cost is what originally the consultant had recommended in our last budget workshop last fiscal year.
But I don't feel like I'm getting my question answered, but I can put it in a more formal question, maybe pass that on to the city manager.
Sure. So the overall impact would be those 2 events minus the difference between tier, the 2-phase approach and the 4-phase approach, quickly. So it would be less than a couple $1,000s.
Right. It's
fiscal
essentially a
year.
decrease of 200%. So if we're
Yeah.
assuming that it's about 2 events, but then if we're cutting the cost by a quarter, or I'm sorry, over 4 fiscal years, then you're essentially only realizing 25% of what the true cost should be.
It's very minimal
It's
that we would be. Yeah, it's barely registered on our books. You'd have to look very closely to see that loss.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Just want to get a picture.
All right, Councilmember Adler?
I guess I just want to know what is the recommendation, or what is the smart decision on this? Because every year, you've got inflation and your money goes down in value normally. So the longer you take, the more of a hit you may get in the fee. So is there any smart, what's the smart play on this?
That's why we have the CPI adjustment as well as the CCI adjustment. If, for example, the CCI is a negative, we apply that. And if CPI is a positive rate, then we also apply that as well. So it reflects the inflation.
Right.
And Councilmember Adler, if I can add, the smart play is whatever decision the city council makes. So it's
Afraid you're going to say that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. It is completely up to your discretion.
Yeah.
This is basically, it's all about the nonprofits because that's the majority of our events. I believe the concern was a sharper increase in costs with our nonprofit organizations. I know there has been desire from the council in previous meetings to figure out a way to lessen the burden on our nonprofits. And I would propose that we do look at some formal policy for waiving or partnering with our nonprofits on certain events, but we do need that structure in order to make sure that we are treating all applicants equally. But it really is about the lessening the burden on the nonprofits or easing it throughout the years.
Yeah, that changes everything.
Right.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Burrows?
Thank you. So just to make sure, thanks for clarifying on the 28 fees. You mentioned that minus 0.7 means we are reducing that fees, right?
Yes.
Because I hardly hear reducing anywhere in nowadays. So I'm surprised to hear that, but that's good. Now, Councilmember Rubio asked about the question, what is the impact of the financial, right? So, and also looks like based on roughly as manager mentioned, our city manager mentioned that it is roughly around $2,000. But then I really wanted to have answers specifically, like, for example, tier 1, how many events we do, tier 2, how many events, tier 3, how many we do. That way, at least I'll have some idea on what will be impact on. Also, if we know that is these organizations or nonprofit organizations of our community, then, that's one of the big thing that I always keep pushing every time in city goal event or city council events, that nonprofits work really hard to make these events happen in our city. there are a lot of other cities that they want to have, or counties they want to have these events in their place, right? But then, as a city council, we also work with these nonprofits on regular basis and push them hard to bring those events into our city. We don't want to lose those events because it adds significant importance. One is we get to have a vibrant community without spending too much our employees' time and energy. I know still our employees need to spend time and energy on application process. I agree with that. But then imagine if we need to run the whole event, that will be significant events. Like, for example, if you take Agumoni or any other events, those are like huge events. Like cities like us cannot load up those kind of events, right?
Yes.
So that's why I'm always cautious about how we are going to increase these fees. So I want to have a little bit clarity here. So can we get that numbers?
Maybe we'll get back to you.
Clarify that. So for tier 1 events, we typically have 4 per year. Tier 2, we have 4 per year. And tier 3, it's 2 to 3 per year. And I'd say the majority of our tier 2 and tier 3 are typically nonprofits that are requesting those special event permits. But tier 1 can range for nonprofit or for-profit or just, a private group.
Okay. So is Agumoni and Maya Bazaar, they come in the applications because they run their programs in Bishop Ranch, right?
Correct.
But still they need to go through this process, spend this application fee here in the city, or because they're getting their permits from Bishop Ranch?
The event is if it's on city property. So like if typically Durga Puja would usually be in Central Park. And so we would have that special event permit application for like our facility. But if they're having it in Bishop Ranch in the parking lot, it's a different type of fee. It's not this special event fee.
Okay. Okay. That's important because I see they put tons of time and energy in that, making it. Now, tier 1, I see that we want to increase from $100 to eventually $400 by 26. Now, just for my understanding, when we say it's just an application, right? If someone says, hey, I know because one of these sports event, they want to run some special event, right? Like trophy.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Now, what work our city need to do in order to get that approval? How we are calculating that we need $440 to process a application?
So it is based on staff time and the way that we divide the different tiers. So tier 1 is an event that is primarily managed just by the Parks and Community Services Department. A tier 2 event will.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I got that piece. But I don't want to really get into each and every individual detail level. But then I'm really surprised that if your co-sponsor is submitting application that I want to do a event to share a trophy or do one, you're asking $440.
So for a tier 3 event, it is because it
No, tier 1, $440 in 25-26.
that is based on staff time. That is the actual cost of staff time calculated by the consultant.
$440 for your co-sponsor submit an application saying that, and they are doing all their work. And our city staff is just looking at that application. For that, we need to make them pay $440.
It's more than just the staff completing the paperwork. It would also include visits. It could also include doing a layout. And again, for tier 1,
Layout, sorry to interrupt. When you say layout, what layout they are doing there?
it could be looking at the room, how the chairs are going to be set up, how the tables are going to be set up, what other logistics might be involved. And that's just for tier 1. It gets more complicated as other departments. So like tier 2, we might involve PD, and that would include a whole different scope of work. Tier 3 will involve the county or the fire district. And so there are a lot of moving pieces. There's multiple staff members, usually licenses, such as like a ABC license could be involved. So it may seem simple, but it really is different levels and different scopes of work.
Okay, let's stick to the tier 1. Tier 1, $440 per paper application that we are talking about. That's why I'm trying to understand. Then you're saying that you're talking about layout. Do we do layout in tier 1?
Yes, you would require a walkthrough. You would usually use our software planning pod at the very minimum to have the layout of of your event, which staff might be required. All of that is discussed in the planning process.
So in tier one, we are doing application. So that means we are doing layout and application and what else?
It would be looking at our facilities calendar to see what other events are involved, just looking at our different timetable, looking at the calculation of staff that's required. It's the back and forth and communication between the renter and staff. It's all those different moving pieces.
So how many hours do you think our staff is spending on tier one application?
I would have to refer to my staff report from our commission meeting to take a look, but I don't know that off the top of my head. I would have to get back to you.
Oh, Keith is here, master.
So as May eloquently put, the special event process seems very simple. They fill out an application, they submit it. It should be a no-brainer, rubber stamp, they're on their way, they do their event. Unfortunately, individuals, just because they want to have a special event, doesn't mean that they are professional organizers as to how to do an event. And so there are typically multiple emails back and forth. There are multiple in-person visits to the sites, the facility, that add up, whether that email takes time to process, figure out what the questions really are, what is the correct answer, whether that's a site visit, answering multiple questions. Sometimes those questions are answered multiple times for full clarity. At the tier one level, that $440 is roughly 6.5 hours of staff time. It's actually not very much, and it adds up very quickly.
Okay. So for me, I need to know how much each staff, how much we are spending time on these applications, because I need to understand. For me, it's like putting like $440 just for a basic, because I have done these kind of special events, like many of them. I know how much help I get from city staff, how much they come and do inspection and all that. I've gone through multiple times. And where, especially when you have a co-sponsor who's continuously keep doing these events, they hardly reach out. They submit the application, then the process continues. That's it. I never seen any time staff coming there looking at the layouts and all those kind of things. So for me, I need to really understand the details. 440 is a lot of money for me.
And Vice Mayor Veros,
yeah.
we can also get you the section from the independent consultant study that we conducted last year. As you recall, it was the first time in several years that we hired, I believe it was Matrix Consulting Group. We hadn't had an independent study of our fees in many years, and they came in and they broke down staff time, they put in inflation factors, all the calculations went into the numbers. We can get you that section of the Matrix study to provide you the detail on how that was
will be great.
developed.
That can
Yeah.
help me for making my decision on this one. Thank you.
Okay, I think the only question I had was, and it might be for May also. There are 13 new fees for Parks and Community Services. Some of those are like with the school district co-sponsored events, turf field usage, maybe a for-profit kind of thing. Are these things that are new? Or are they things that have been going on? It's just that we've been subsidizing those and now we're going to get the cost recovery on those.
For the field fees that you're specifically mentioning, we've always had a full day option. The new fees specifically for our co-sponsored groups in the district, it's just to introduce a half day option because we were finding that some places when they were having tournaments, they didn't need the full day. So we just wanted to provide the option where they could just rent the field for half the day.
Okay. All right. And then, but aside from the field stuff, or maybe that covers all the new fees. Does that cover all 13 of them?
No, we do have a handful of new fees. So other new fees that were included on the fee reso, for example, we do have a new marketing package, which is brand new. So for any of our performances at the theaters, like at Doherty Valley or at the Front Row Theater, if the presenter wanted to be able to hang up their posters inside the community center, we did introduce a new fee where they would be able to share their marketing collateral at any of the community centers for a nominal fee. That's one of our brand new fees, another fee that would be included that is brand new. Sorry, I'm drawing, my notes are over at my seat, of course.
There was something about for-profit camps and things like that.
That's also part of the half-day
Half-day,
tournament.
Okay.
Other new fees would just be an increase on our CPI. So things like our building rentals that just increased by the 3.53% CPI, as well as like our hourly rate for staff. That's also part of just standard minimum wage increase. Also for our theater staff, that's a per contractual agreement.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I was just trying to get a feel for whether we've just always been doing these things and just never asked for reimbursement on them. And now we finally are doing the full cost recovery, or if it's kind of a new structure. Sounds like the half-day thing's a new structure. But the rest might be services that we were providing that now we're gonna,
We do
provide a
have
charge for.
a little bit of that. So for example, one brand new fee is for our facility rentals. We have a permit modification fee. So for example, we've always had different permits for different rentals, but we've never had a fee specifically to make changes. So we were finding that a lot of customers were making changes very close to the deadline or even well after the deadline. And again, that does take staff time. We would have to rework the different quarterly permits. So that is a brand new fee, but it is a service that always existed. We're just trying to account for the staff time that it takes to do something like that.
Okay, all right. Thank
And
you. I think that's it for the staff questions. Let me open up public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
We do. We have 2 speaker cards. Oh, 3 speaker cards. The first is Greg Carr.
All right. Greg Carr.
Thank you.
Well, I must have been under a false assumption that this item was going to discuss all of the fees within the city and go over the increases that were done. At least you can answer that question for me. please.
Yeah, I mean, we did this last year, and so this is really just an adjustment based on, as you saw, the CPI or the construction increases or some of the new fees that are in there. But these were all fees that were adjusted last year, and this is just the annual kind of adjustment to that.
Except this is just for one part of the city. There's no presentation of the fee now, for example, for somebody in the city to appeal a planning commission decision to the city council. All I've seen is events. Is that all that's in the document?
No, it's a third of tonight's packet is a whole schedule of fees for each department.
So, I mean, I hate to ask the questions of you, Mark, but are the other departments going to present tonight their fee increases?
No.
Is there-
That's not my understanding. I think, and we are going to have a public hearing on April 22nd. We can perhaps have a
All
little
fees?
more detail from each of the departments on that public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next speaker.
Jim Blickenstaff.
All right, Mr. Blickenstaff.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. One fee especially just jumped out at me as, and that's not easy to do when you're looking through hundreds of fees, but it did because it's so prohibitive, even punitive for the residents of San Ramon. In particular, if you want to engage politically with your elected officials, one of the key ways of doing that is appealing a decision you consider poor at the planning commission or even the zoning administrator. And that ability to appeal is part of the process of communicating and engaging with the public, the city council. So I noticed that this fee for that, as far as I can tell, is $4,500 for residents to appeal what they consider a poor decision by the planning commission. That is almost shocking. Well, it is shocking. And it's $2,000 higher than the former fee 1 or 2 years ago, which is $2,500. And so, just for reference, I checked Danville's fees, and they are $311 for an appeal. And I think that's just saying, residents, you can appeal when you like to, because we're not going to stop you with a prohibitive fee. San Ramon's is 15 times higher than Danville's. So before this gets lost in the shuffle of hundreds of fees, I'd like to see the city pay extra attention to this fee in terms of making it more citizen-friendly. It shouldn't be so excessive as to prohibit citizens from engaging in what they consider a bad decision and with their elected officials. And that's what the appeal to the city council is for. So I would just ask you to pay special attention to this. And the other thing that would come up with this is the returning of the fee if you win. It seems to me at that stage, you should have your money come back to you because it was a justified appeal. So, and last I heard, that wasn't part of the deal either. So let's take this fee on the citizens for appealing to seriously and really make a decision, a cognitive decision about what we want to say to the citizens of San Ramon. So for a developer, he wants to appeal, he's got tens of millions of dollars on the line. It's a no-brainer. It's pocket change for them, but it's a excessive fee for the residents. So that's came to my attention. I'd like to spend special attention to that with the idea of making it more citizen-friendly. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right, next speaker.
Gary Shaban.
All right, Gary.
Mayor and council members, I like the presentation, staff. I think you did a good job and you know what the costs are to make things happen. I appreciate that. And I think that the city needs to charge for those fees. I worked hard on N to help you guys. And I think that if we can't be giving things away at the city, I don't care how nominal it is, we need to be picking up the cost of things to the city wherever we can and keep our budget in place for us. I understand about the nonprofits. Maybe the city can come up with another avenue in dealing with that. But I think when the costs are the costs, they should be charged. As a citizen San Ramon who helps all the time, I'd like to see it just continue to charge what it costs. I think you should go with the 2-phase because next year it could even be higher and you have to do it again. And that means that if you do a 4-phase, you'll be doing it every year for 4 years. Get it done, charge what it costs you for the city. And staff, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Any more speakers?
No, that was it.
Any written comments?
Not for this item.
Okay, we'll close public comments. And it's over to the council now. I think, let's see, any, I guess, final comments before we kind of make some decisions here? I guess we need to make a decision on or provide direction on whether to go with the 4-phase approach or the 2-phase approach. And I think at some point we will get a motion to set a public hearing for April 22nd as well. Any council thoughts on the 4-phase versus 2-phase direction?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask our city manager or anybody on staff who can answer this question, or from the parks, I don't know. The nonprofits I know are concerned is because of the rollback that's happening with a lot of funding that they normally would rely on. There's a lot of uncertainty now as to what kind of funding they're actually going to get, if any. So my concern just considering what was mentioned now, I'm just thinking like, is there a way that in the application, could we incorporate, say, since we don't know what's going to happen, there's an uncertainty right there, right? Is there a way to incorporate, say, an option to, if it's a nonprofit that wants to apply for something, but they happen to be one of those nonprofits that lost their funding? Is there any way that we could actually include in their application the ability to disclose that so that we do it on a case-by-case basis rather than just a sweeping approach?
Right. I think that would be best addressed through a policy that we can take to the council and have the council adopt. The purpose, and I want to be clear, the purpose of the special event fee, it's just a blanket for all special events in the city. A for-profit organization at Tier 1 wants to show up and hold a special event. This applies to them as well. I do understand. And, we really do value the partnership with our local nonprofits. That could be another issue. If it is if it's a nonprofit from out of the area, do we include them in a potential fee waiver policy? The policy could take many shapes and many forms, but if I'm hearing interest from the council in some policy to address nonprofit event fees, then we could take that to the policy committee and get it scheduled for the council's consideration. You could leave this fee schedule in place in case you have the for-profit applications and then address that through a policy. That might be a way of handling it. And in that policy, it could be if somebody had just recently lost federal funding or whatever criteria the council would like to set up, we could deal with it there.
I like that, and I would love for us to have the opportunity to flesh that out a little bit more detail.
Yes, because we do have certain policies and practices for, waiving of some fees. We have other policies for what we display on marquees or our flag policy. It could be something similar to that. And I've seen 2 nodding heads. I don't know if do I have a third?
Well,
I
you
see.
have
Okay,
my
I see 3.
nodding.
Okay, consecutive always helps me, but I can make sure that I count to 3 on the nodding head. So we will be sure to bring a draft policy to the policy committee for consideration for either nonprofits in general, local nonprofits. We will look for that direction from the policy committee, then bring it back to the council for adoption.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Our council members, Raina, any thoughts on 4-phase versus 2-phase for the fees?
Well, I'm for receiving the money for the city if we can in a short period of time, if we're able to, but not with the Vice Mayor's comment about the significant jump from phase 1 to phase 2. It's just a big jump for somebody that wants to put on an event, and I don't know. It's one of those things where I want to hear more as to why, like what the potential, what the setbacks are, what the pros are, what the cons are. I do understand for nonprofits as well. We could have, I know there was a public comment about that, having a special schedule for nonprofit. So I'd like to consider that as well.
Do you think, Councilmember Joinet, it might help for if we maybe tabled this until we make a decision on the nonprofit side?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, go through the whole policy committee thing before we decide on this?
I think it's because it lets us know better what we're actually looking at, the whole picture in terms of because the primary concern from what I heard was about the nonprofits and the cost to them, the expense and the burden to them. And so I think what I'm hearing is that Councilmember Joinet is indicating that he needs more information to really understand the pros and cons of the whole situation, as he mentioned.
All right, well, I'm going to look at the city manager. At some point, our current fee schedule is going to expire, and we need to get on with a new fee schedule. and have it approved and in place. Our public hearing is on April 22nd. I don't see how we're going to get the policy decision, policy committee process completed by then. I think we probably need to make a decision on 2-phase versus 4-phase, or at least whether or not we're going to approve this. I think we got to kind of get moving with that. I don't know that we have the luxury of the time to let this expire.
If the question is focused on the special event permit, you could approve the fee schedule as is and then hold on any increases. You could, it's whatever the pleasure of the council for the increase for this particular fee. So it can be separated out. We can move forward with the rest of the process of approving all the other fees, and you could put this on hold until there's a policy committee discussion and a decision by the council. You can move forward with 2-phase approach tonight. You could say 4-phase and wait. It's really up to the discretion of the council. But I would recommend, if this is the sticking point for the approval tonight, then you would separate this out and we would move forward with the rest of the fee schedule.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah.
Any other thoughts down here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I need.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks for working on this one and sharing with us. I know, see, just to make sure that I definitely want to charge so that we can cover our costs. There is no doubt about that one. There is not a single doubt. And then, but then we need to look at the transparency, right? So 2 key things that we need to provide to our residents. One is transparency. When we are making such a huge, significant jump, we need to tell them that why we are going from 100 to 440 within 1 year or 2 years, right? So I need to make sure, because when they talk to me, I should be able to answer them. For that, I need to have that information. And also, please add our comparable city, how they are charging, along with that information of the consultant. That will help me. That's one thing. The second thing is, here, always when we look at these numbers, we are talking about the money, but then there is a lot of added value that we get through these nonprofit organizations. When these organizations are conducting, for example, when Agumoni is running an event here in San Ramon, all our shopping here, plus retail tax, all that, we keep talking about economic development. We talk about how it is going to, we need to work on that, but we don't have any plan. At least these are the things that happening in our city, which is contributing for improving the social network within the community, improving the people to spend money within, so that we could able to improve our retail tax base. There are a lot of other things that happening that brings added value. Okay, we cannot be short-sighted, narrow-minded with only one thing that, oh, where is my number? No, that's not the way it works. That's why our economic development is so bad. If we keep on focusing that, oh, I'll put $1, then I'm getting $1. No, think big. How we can generate more revenue. If we keep kicking out all these nonprofit organizations that are working hard within the community, when we try to get $2,000 more from them, while we are getting $20,000 from the retail when they conduct these huge events. You know, as a council, we need to have forward thinking, not picking pennies and killing our whole economic development. That's where I want to go. Otherwise, I don't have any problem with this. Covering our charges, I don't have any issues, but I need to make sure that our nonprofits, as well as the community residents who are working hard to conduct these events, we should support them, see how we can help them to make these things happen here. Because there are many other cities who want to do this. They want to take this opportunity to take away these nonprofit organizations to run these events in their cities. I'm telling you, this is from my personal experience I'm explaining. So with that, that's from my side. Thank you.
Okay. And I mean, I'm good with the whole full cost recovery. This is our concept that the consultant came up with, what we agreed on last year. I think we do need to kind of live within our means. We do now have Measure N in place that might help soften the load if we do a 4-phase approach. And and regarding the four-phase approach, the numbers of events is minimal. It doesn't sound like it's a whole lot of things. At some point, we're gonna have to, we gotta approve this. And even for the for-profits, even if it's, even if we have some other consideration for the nonprofits, we need this for the for-profits. So maybe what we can do for the public hearing on the 22nd, assume we approve that, that we have a matrix or something that'll show kind of the tier 1, 2, 3, the numbers and the costs associated with those, kind of the overall impact. What's the bottom line dollar impact to the city of those numbers of events? So we know what it is in 2-phase versus 4-phase.
Sure.
Also, if we could have a little more detail from each of the departments, if council kind of agrees with that, a little more detail than just talking about parks. It's a summary from each of the departments, the primary user fees for that. And then maybe a review of kind of the thought process that we went through in the past on the appeal analysis and what the cost of doing an appeal is for the city.
Yep.
And pros and cons of, the charging full amount versus subsidizing that or returning a fee if it's, a favorable outcome for the appellant or something like that.
Sure.
That's good with the council as well.
So I would like to move the motion for the public hearing on April 22, 2025, to consider adoption of resolution number 2025, approving master fee schedule for various municipal services for fiscal year 2025-26, excluding the special event permit application.
You don't want to talk, just for clarification, you don't want to talk about the special event in the public hearing?
I want to get that information before I get that into the public hearing.
I think he's
Or I want
referring
to
to
get it off
nonprofit.
policy committee to come out with that information. Until then, I want to defer that.
Okay.
So we can, at that public hearing, that would be set for, I think, I just saw the city attorney lean in. How do I, nope, okay. Just making sure I'm not stepping anywhere I shouldn't here. At that public hearing, so this is setting the date, and then at that discussion of the actual adoption, you can exclude it. So at the adoption date. So tonight's setting the public hearing, and then the details can be further refined. So if you want to exclude that from the discussion for the public hearing, you're basically saying that we're freezing it now and we could look at it later, or you can have that discussion on the 22nd.
Actually, I am going to
There we go.
interject a little bit.
Felt it.
I agree with Stephen that you can do that. You could also, not exclude it and then refer it at that point to the policy committee, and you could separate it at the hearing itself so that you don't exclude the possibility of coming to a decision on that date.
So we should be able to exclude, if we don't have enough details, then we should be able to exclude that on April 22nd.
Yes.
Right? Okay. In that case, I'll move the motion for April 22nd hearing.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second it.
Okay. You gotta electronically second it somehow there. Okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Veros, second by Councilmember Adler. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Okay, motion passes unanimously, so we will set the public hearing for April 22nd, 2025. Okay. On to the final major item of the evening. Introduction of the budget process for 25-26, presented by Jennifer Wakeman, Finance Division Manager. Welcome.
Thank you.
Don't know how to get back. Okay. Sorry. I'm not on my presentation.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Unfortunately, Candace was not able to make the presentation tonight, so here I am.
Great.
So this is the kickoff for the fiscal year 26 budget. And I wanted to start with my presentation outline. We're just going to revisit where we ended the fiscal year 25 mid-year budget, as well as discuss the projected fund balance and reserve policy. And then I'll review our fiscal year 26 budget development process and the calendar that we've laid out. So the fiscal year 25 mid-year operating budget, this represents the activities of the city's general fund. You'll see we had revenues projected of 66.2 million, expenditures 65.2, our net transfers out of 3.1, resulting in a net change in fund balance of $2.1 million. Based on the ending fund balance that we had in the audited report for fiscal year 24 of $27.2 million, we take into account the projected net change of fund balance of a decline of 2.1, and we have an estimated fund balance at June 30th of 25 of $25.1 million. So this is an important number because this is the number that we use for our reserve policy calculation. So our reserve policy calculation is based on two factors: our general fund expenditures that are budgeted, as well as the expected general fund transfer out to the Doherty Valley Fund. For fiscal year 25 at the mid-year, the general fund expenditures were 65.2 million. The general fund transfer out was 3.7 for a total of $68.9 million. That makes the target reserve of 36%, $24.8 million. So as you can see, at the end of the mid-year budget for fiscal year 25, the city is projected to come in at $300,000 over the reserve target, or 0.4%. And it's important to note at this time that based on where we are, we don't expect any significant variances to the numbers that we've presented at the mid-year. So going into the fiscal year 26 budget development, there are many components to this piece. We have collection of our data, revenues, expenses, position requests. This is position reallocations across programs. This is new position requests, and then our capital improvement program. Once we have all that data, we have a verification process, and then synthesizing all of the data and analyzing it. Which brings me to our fiscal year 26 budget calendar. So looking at next month, we are hoping to bring an initial review of the fiscal year 26 budget back to council, or to council. And I expect that that will look like a high-level budget summary, as well as a summary table of all of the changes that have been brought forth from all the departments. We'll get some feedback from you at that time. And then also, as we mentioned tonight, adopting the master fee schedule. Then in May, we will be bringing back the full fiscal year 26 budget and capital improvement program, as well as the 5-year financial forecast. It's important in the scope of assessing the city's financial situation that you have that long-term perspective at the same time as you are making decisions about the current year's budget situation. And then in June, we will bring back to you a fiscal year 26 budget for adoption. And that's it. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Kind of a short and sweet kickoff for this fiscal year 26 budget. But I've been able to get into the numbers so far, and I'm working with the departments, so everything's looking good so far in our process.
Congratulations on your first presentation. That was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 weeks in, almost 3 weeks, and
It's in 2 days.
yeah, we wanted to, this is something new. Usually we don't come before the council this early to give a preview of the process, but we wanted to set up the process and let you know where we're falling in this fiscal year, and we're right on target for what we predicted. So hopefully this just gave you a nice general overview of more to come.
Yeah. No, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, let's go ahead and go through the questions by council and any more for you.
No, Mayor, thank you.
No, I just want to say congratulations and thank you for your first presentation here.
Thank you.
All right, let's go down to Councilmember Adler.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Sorry that this is running a little late here, but so we do have the Measure N funds kicking in April?
April 1st.
April 1st,
Mhm.
okay. So that's all part of the plan, so no surprises there.
Correct.
No, I'm happy with what you've presented. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for presentation. My first question out of 10 questions. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you. Thanks for present. Looking forward for the workshop.
Great.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. I assume Measure N projections will be a part of the budget process?
Yes, they will. And in talking with leadership, we've decided to break that out separately from the city's regular sales tax revenue so that you'll be able to see it discreetly on the presentation
Okay.
the next one.
And do we have, you mentioned just sort of by month, April, May, June, but do we have the kind of the dates set yet for these budget workshops or the things that we're going to do?
I do not have specific dates yet.
Okay.
But as soon as we get something more specific nailed down, I will definitely be sharing those out.
Okay, because I'd like to see, I guess rather than, I know we've done budget workshops in the past over in the community center and things like that, or done it on a weekend or some off time, but I'd rather shine a brighter spotlight on it this year and do it in a more of a public setting. In kind of this setting.
Sure.
And make sure that the public sees kind of the process, sees what we're doing, sees the projections for Measure N. And we've promised them as part of the Measure N that there's going to be the opportunity to kind of look into, see what's coming in and how it's all going to be spent. And even though it all just goes into the general fund, this is an opportunity for them to kind of see the kind of the process as it develops.
Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I don't know that I have.
And Mayor, typically the budget workshops were at 4 p.m. before a council meeting. If you would like it in this setting, we could definitely do it in the chambers. I don't know if you're suggesting later than 4 p.m. I want to make sure that we're clear. If we're looking at then not before a council meeting, having a separate evening meeting, is that what you're?
Well, I guess I would, who knows what's going to be on the calendar between now
Right.
and when we approve the budget. And we don't want to run out of time either. We got to have it done by a certain deadline by the end of June. But I do want it to be as transparent as possible.
Sure.
To the public. So if we don't have too many agenda items and we can do it at a 7 o'clock council meeting, that's great. If we have too many other agenda items coming up, as kind of the routine spring schedule,
It's a very busy season, yes.
then I would be okay with a 4 o'clock start time. I know we've got maybe some work schedule conflicts we might have to work through. But my point is, I want it to be televised. I want people to be able to watch it if they can, if they want to. If they're not able to attend the meeting, we can't do that over in the community center and that sort of thing.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sure.
The only comment, by the way, Mayor Armstrong, I think that's a great idea. And I do think though, to have maximum participation, because even if they can watch it, they may have questions themselves and things they want to address. I'm just wondering, I mean, I know we don't know if we can find a slot later in the evening, but if we can, I think that would be ideal.
Okay.
Okay.
We can.
So no dates are set yet. And I think that's.
Just to make sure, that means we are going to have a Zoom call so that people can call in.
We don't do remote call-ins with any of our public meetings. That might be another policy discussion if the council would like to entertain that. But we would be broadcasting it on YouTube and people can email in any comments or attend and fill out speaker cards.
I think we should let people speak or question from the Zoom call, in this case for budget especially. That will help us to be transparent, and we can clarify these questions immediately, or at least we can have some answers on that one. So I would prefer having a Zoom call where people can call in.
Sure, if that's direction from the council, I would want to possibly discuss that at a council meeting. We need to do a bit of background work to get Zoom up and running again. When we did have Zoom, it was basically on a shoestring, and I'm not sure that we are fully equipped to do that. We would have to look at what systems available for us to put that back into play if the council wanted to do that. I am the short answer is I am unsure we can get that up and going again for the budget meetings. I would the way that we had our system patched together before, also we did have system failures, and Zoom is never a guarantee. So I would like a more reliable system in place than what we currently have. So people don't have the expectation that they can call in, and then we had some failures in the past. So
Can we set this as a budget item for full discussion and have a staff presentation on this? So we can make that decision on the Zoom piece rather than, because it's not part of our agenda tonight. I think I'll defer to the city attorney, but I think we had made some formal decisions on our process when we went to the process we're doing now. And if we're going to change that process, I think we need to probably have that as a fuller, deeper agenda item.
There should at a minimum be some public discussion of it so that the public is aware of the changes.
Okay. Will you do that for future council meeting?
So if you're, so just to be clear, you're asking to have a future discussion on bringing back remote participation?
At least for the budget process.
For the budget process only?
Workshops, yeah,
Okay.
process.
Seeing three? Okay, perfect. Thank you for synchronizing. It's hard for me to sometimes, was that a head nod? Was
There's also other technology other than Zoom that I've used in the past with that handles
remote participation
a lot, like thousands. We're talking thousands of people if they wanted to sign in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zoom is just synonymous for.
No, I get it. Yeah, it's like Kleenex. We're just common with. Yeah.
So I guess the final thing I'd say before we kind of close this one out is that I would like part of the discussion on the budget when we get to whatever those dates are. Let's kind of review, last year. Let's review what happened. How did we get to where we were and to the point where we had to go with Measure N and figure out, or where did that structural deficit come from? And that was all part of the argument of kind of Measure N versus no Measure N and all that. But if we could kind of set the table with that to make sure that we're not going to start going down that same road
Right.
in the future budgeting process, and we, kind of keep it all above board. We're not going to kind of go back. We're going forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any
Mayor,
final-
you do have public comment on this item.
Oh, we do. Okay, great. Then let's open up public comment. Thank you.
Johannes Tillahan.
Mayor? I probably, now that I've listened to the budget meeting, I'm probably putting the cart before the horse on this one, but I'm just going to read. I've arranged my speech for today, but it will fit in eventually wherever you want it to be. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, Steve Martin, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. This is actually my first city budget meeting ever, and I'm proud that I'm here in San Ramon, where I've lived here for the past 10 years. Before I speak out on the budget, first I want to thank the mayor, council members, and Christina and Lisa and Joanne from City Clerk's office for putting together the amazing Government 101 Academy Over those 5 weeks, I didn't just learn how a city functions, I learned how this city works. And even more importantly, I realized City Hall isn't just a ghost town. It's a place filled with kind, approachable people. For 10 years, I've never stepped foot inside. And now I've not only learned a lot, but I've also made new friends, something that doesn't happen often as adults. Now on to why I'm here tonight. A few weeks ago, I went on a police ride along with Officer Leon. I had great experience. He drove me around the city for nearly 5 hours, explaining everything, answered my questions, and gave me a deep understanding of what our officers deal with on a nightly basis. One thing he said really stood out. I asked, how many officers are on duty tonight? He said usually 5 or 6. I assumed he meant per district, but he meant for the entire city. That was shocking. We're a city of over 80,000 people and nearly 30,000 households. It's hard to imagine that a handful of officers can keep all of us safe, even if 2 incidents happen simultaneously. Later, during our police academy session, I asked Chief Dunton if that's what accurate, and he confirmed it. He also shared that last year's budget cuts hit the department hard, which is part of why staffing is so limited. As a resident, as a father, and a husband, that concerns me. When my wife is out with friends in city center, or when my son is at the parks late evening, I've always trusted that help would come quickly if needed. Now I understand that response times would be stretched thin. That's why I'm here, to respectfully ask that public safety be made the top priority in this year's budget. I'm almost done, Krista, don't worry. We all believe in Chief Dunton's leadership. We've heard his vision. Now let's give him the resource he needs to protect all of us. I also recognize you have a tough job. You're being asked to divide a limited budget among departments, each making their case, and every resident has different priorities. Mine happens to be safety. Thank you again for your time and for helping residents like me feel the city is truly here for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Janos. Any other speakers?
One more, Shirag Kathrani.
Okay, Shirag.
Hi, Mayor and Council members. I had a question for you all. Did you had this presentation about the budget beforehand? Because I don't see that attached in the agenda item. So I think public should have this presentation prior to the council meeting because it wasn't in the agenda item. I rechecked. Did you guys had it beforehand?
No.
Well, then that's not the right thing. We should have all the agenda items attachment in the agenda budget. Especially this is a budget presentation. We should have it. Somebody should be able to question beforehand. Otherwise, it's so hard to even make any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other speakers?
No.
Okay, any written comment?
Not for this item.
Okay, we will close public comment. Do we have any action on this or?
No.
Let's see.
No, Mayor, it was just information.
Of just information. So yeah, when we get into the budget process, we'll have full presentations and packets and that.
And typically for items, all of the information is included in the text and presentations could be a summary of the staff report.
Yep.
So everything that is in a presentation is typically covered in a staff report in great detail.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. That since no council action is required, we will move on to item 10. That is the city managers and city council member comments and matters initiated.
All right, great. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. 2 items for this evening. One, spring break camps are just around the corner. They take place Monday, April 7th through Friday, April 11th. Elementary camps include options in arts, natures, cooking, sports, Lego, and tech. Teen camps include lifeguard certification. Bobalicious Cooking. I don't really know what that is, but it sounds very interesting. And table tennis. You can register online at sanramonerecguide.com or in person at one of our community centers. And this is a little early for announcement, but it's such a popular event. Sheep Shearing Day at Forest Home Farms. It's one of our most popular events of the year, and that will be Saturday, April 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sheep Shearing Day at Forest Home Farms is a family-friendly event where anyone can learn about the process of sheep shearing. The day includes a shearing demonstration, a chance to explore the farm, tour of the glass house, watch blacksmithing in action, learn how wool is cleaned, spun, participates art, crafts, and more. And I think you can check out beekeeping there. Tickets are now on sale at srhf.org, and the proceeds from the event support Forest Home Farms through the San Ramon Historic Foundation. And with that, that concludes my updates for this evening.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's go around to council member comments. Council members, why not?
Thank you, Mayor. On March 12th, I attended the Ramadan celebration at San Ramon Valley Islamic Center along with Vice Mayor Veros and Councilmember Rubio. It was very well attended. It's when they break their fast and they have their dinner, which is called iftar, in the evening. Chief Denton was there as well. It was great to see everyone there. March 17th, we had the traffic board meeting. That was at Candace Anderson's office in Danville. We're reviewing the marketing plan for this upcoming year and trying to propose new ways of increasing ridership on their school buses. And finally, attended the Holiday celebration with my fellow council members here. I'm laughing because they're going to have other stories to share, but it was a lot of fun. Holly was a great tradition at Bishop Branch, and thank you to the organizers and to the staff and to the city, and also thank you to the officers there. They didn't let us throw Holly on them, but that's okay. It was not that we would, Chief. It was fun though. Very well attended. So that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, let me get down to Councilmember Adler.
Thank you very much. On March 12th, I presided over an Eagle Scout recognition at the Amador Rancho Community Center. And there were 2 scouts that had achieved that goal of Eagle Scout. And it was pretty impressive to hear their journey of achievement. It's really a lifelong honor. Once you're an Eagle Scout, it's on your resume forever. And there's only about 6% of scouts that achieve that rank. On the 17th, as Robert indicated, he and I attended the Traffic Board of Directors meeting at Supervisor Candace Anderson's office. And we've talked about traffic issues earlier in the evening, but it's a very important program for our school kids. Again, that was all because of Measure J, 0.5% sales tax measure extended for 25 years by the voters in 2004. And there have been about 1,300 ridership passes that have been sold since January 22nd. And aside from Monte Vista High, seats are available on every route. So our kids really rely on that and gets them to and from school safely. On the 18th, I went to the teen council meeting, which is held right in the community center here at Central Park. The most important business they approved was an update application for Outstanding Teen Citizenship Awards. The application will be available on April 1st for the period of August 1st, 2024 through July 21st, 2025. And the Teen Wellness Ad Hoc Committee includes mental health. And I know that Leadership San Ramon Valley is going to speak about them in one of their meetings. and Team Council Goal Progress Review. They have established partnerships with local organizations regarding suicide prevention, which I was really glad to hear about that. And they also have collaborated with the Senior Advisory Committee to help with teens. The seniors, as I know, need help with technology on their computers. And so the teens have helped, they'll go over to the senior center and help seniors. So that's a great service, and I thank them very much. It's a good collaboration between those two groups. And also, as Robert indicated, on Sunday, the Holy Festival at Bishop Ranch next to City Center, Indian Spring Festival of Color and Joy. And I'll tell you, it was an amazing experience. Being a guy originally from Plymouth, Michigan, I've never experienced anything like that. And the community was just fabulous, the way they all came out, the energy level, and of course, throwing the colors around. And, the whole, city council members were there, and we were jumping around being crazy like everybody else. But a wonderful experience. I really look forward to it next year as well.
I hope the mayor attends, because we missed you over there. It was a lot of fun. We danced on stage too.
Yeah.
The only issue is,
I danced last year.
only issue is cleaning your clothes, and I now have holy clothes that will be designated just for that day, because you can't get the stains out. And my wife's already read me the riot act about where I'm walking in the house. And as also has been indicated, Government 101, the mayor and Councilmember Rubio and I were there to congratulate the graduates of Government 101. And we also handed out certificates, and we sat down with them later for dinner and talked about their experience. So that was, having graduated or gone through that course, it was good to see that it's continuing and gives people an opportunity to understand their city a little bit better. So thank you very much.
All right, Vice Mayor Veros.
Thank you. So I attended MC board meeting on Thursday, March 20th. There are three key items. One is proposed of fiscal year budget for 25-26. The reserve goals for MCE is $495 million, which is they achieved, and it is at 101%. It looks pretty healthy. And also they are continuing to provide $5 million, like $5 million cost relief program for low income and for the relief program. So if anybody listening on this, if you need any help, please reach out to them. And the second item is we reviewed proposed adjustment to MCE demand charges effective April 1st, 2025. A demand charge increase of approximately 4.4% for larger agricultural, commercial, and industrial customers that would apply to less than 1% of MCE customers are going to be impacted. So there is notion that, oh, this is not going to impact residential, but then I made it clear that it will impact, because eventually the charges is going to be transferred to the residents. So, and then the next item was on their MCE investment in transmission software solutions. Currently, they are curtailing some of their power because of unable to utilize due to PG&E is not providing the required solution. So they are working with PG&E to improve that solution. And in order to get that, they have to spend around $10 million, and that was also approved. In order to, but that $10 million will come back pretty quickly to MCE, because that curtailing will be removed and we'll get more revenue. So that's on MCE. And March 13th, attended San Ramon Valley Islamic Center iftar event. So had a great time. It was great to celebrate with our community members, fellow members to iftar dinner. And also had an opportunity to listen to their, is it like Mullah, I think, Mullah, I forgot his name, but anyway, so it was very informative. And then Friday, March 21st, attended Diablo Valley Technology Initiative annual gala. It's about AI and the future, how AI is going to involve in our government. So it's very interesting actually. So hopefully in future we should have our city staff to be part of it. I met Walnut Creek, Concord, and many other cities joining that event. There were like pretty good presentations that how the future technology is coming up, especially the PD, drone technologies, and how artificial technologies are all coming into our future landscape of our government programs. So that's one. And then last Sunday, I attended Holy event along with my fellow council members. It was fantastic. I had a great time. So it was great to celebrate such a vibrant cultural event with our fellow community members. And also we had a good dance moves, Bollywood dance moves on the stage. So make sure you watch it on Instagram from the council. Okay, that's from my side. Thank you.
All right, thank you. 2 weeks ago, on the 12th of March, I attended the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance. We had a mayor's panel at the Bankhead Theater in Livermore. This is where all the 5 Tri-Valley mayors got together. We talked about different things. There was a series of questions that were presented to us by a moderator, and then we took some questions from the audience, but had the opportunity to talk about some of the things that we've got going on in San Ramon, some of the upcoming changes and developments and things like that going into the future. Then on the next day, on the 13th, I attended the Three Valleys Community Foundation. They had the State of Giving. This is a major community foundation that handed out over $2 million worth of grant awards at that event. I had the privilege to present a check to Runestone Ranch. Runestone Ranch is out in Livermore. They provide kind of an opportunity for first responders who encountered trauma to be able to kind of connect with one another, to kind of connect with nature in a natural setting, and kind of deal with the trauma that they've experienced. On the 14th of March, I attended the Innovation Tri-Valley monthly board meeting down at the Dublin Tech Center. Alex Marin from Sunset Development, Bishop Ranch, provided his vision of the future of Bishop Ranch and a lot of things going on. So it was a lot of stuff we talk about anyway in within community development and a lot of the planning commission things that are going on before us. But that was good to kind of hear it right from his mouth, and it was very interesting, I think, for all the people from Innovation Tri-Valley. On the 18th, over at the Senior Center, I participated in a morning where we went out with the Meals on Wheels Diablo region and delivered meals to some of our senior community members. It was pretty easy for me that particular day. I've done this a couple times. Some of them are a little bit longer than others. This one was just an apartment over off Al Costa, across the street from Aspenwood Senior Housing. Then we went over to Aspenwood and had several of the residents in there. You know, that's all 100% affordable housing in there. So a lot of the seniors in there need that food supplement. You give them basically a week's worth of meals and some milk and fruit and things like that as part of the delivery. These are all volunteers, and they do an amazing service providing this to our seniors in the community. On the 19th of March, I attended the CCTA Authority Board meeting. So we heard from Tim Hale tonight, but at the Authority Board meeting, we were presented the mid-year budget and the different adjustments for CCTA, and we approved those mid-year adjustments. We also got a presentation on the Gomentum Innovation Alliance. That's a new alliance that was formed in November of last year. It's got kind of 2 major components: a regional workforce council and a strategic advisory board. Gomentum is all about, it's up at the Concord Naval Weapons Station, up in Concord, and it's a lot of innovative tech experimental vehicles, autonomous vehicles. They've got it set up like no other place in the country to do test driving. And they have all sorts of, traffic situations that transportation has to deal with. It's very interesting. And then, as mentioned, the Gov 101 dinner last night. I want to thank the clerk's staff for, I caught the tail end of your presentation, very good. And I like the idea of the dinner you did with that. It was nice to kind of connect with the students. We had 4 of those students in the audience this evening. Maybe there was more, but yeah, I know Max and Johannes, and we had Pashalis and Shirag, and I'm not sure who else might have been in the audience tonight, but a lot attended. So, but that is it. You got an alibi?
No, I didn't even give my report yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Wow.
It's okay. It's late. It's late. I get it. No worries.
Rubio. Thank you.
No worries.
Wow.
No worries. It's okay. So March 12th, I attended the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance, which was involved in attendance were all of our Tri-Valley mayors. So of course, that was Livermore, Pleasanton, Dublin, San Ramon, of course, as well as Danville. Very informative. And I think it's just great when we get they have an opportunity to really just kind of tell their sort of, share their experiences and the challenges they're facing, because we better understand regionally also how we can collaborate and what we can do better or differently in our own cities based on their experiences. March 13th, as was already mentioned, I attended the Ramadan celebration at the San Ramon Valley Islamic Center. On March 17th, I attended the Open Space Advisory Committee meeting where we discussed, we had somebody from the county come to talk about the urban limit line update, emphasizing the distinction between urban and non-urban land uses. The county's general plan land use map was reviewed, highlighting non-urban designations and the impact of the 2006 ballot measure L, requiring all jurisdictions to have a ULL. The unincorporated count, I'm sorry, I'm going to skip down. The committee also discussed the important, we also discussed about what we were going to talk about, what we were going to highlight at the Art and Wind Festival. And it seems like we were kind of honing down on the talking about fire hazard management, but also there was interest in talking about the trail development in Gadlands and the importance of community engagement, like as mentioned, fire prevention and open space maintenance. And then on March 20th, I attended the County Connection, the Triple CTA Board of Directors meeting, where it was a reiteration of what was discussed partly on the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program, as well as the automated driving systems that I had reported out last time. It was on the meeting that we had on the operating and scheduling end of it. But importantly, we did have a workshop afterwards on the financial outlook and the options therein that we may want to explore, because everybody's feeling the pinch. Nobody's really sure. There are concerns about funding right now, and how we're gonna, there's a sizable gap, and that's only expected to grow. And as many of you may or may not know, County Connection provides very critical ridership services, especially in the paratransit front, which is for people, provides, transportation for people with disabilities. So one of the things I mentioned, and I think piqued the interest of many there, was looking at Measure X. This is a measure that's supposed to help support critical services. So we're definitely going to be exploring that. That was, hopefully we can get some funding from there. And then on March 20th, I attended the Cub Scout Pack 842 annual Blue and Gold celebration at Montevideo Elementary School. The theme was Under the Sea, and I had to pick had the difficult task of selecting which was the which were the best cupcakes to represent the theme. And the sea turtles did it for me. I wish I could share a picture, but it was very cute. It was just a cupcake with a cookie that was dipped in green coloring and turned upside down. So it had the hard shell and the inside was filled with green filling. And they put these two little eyes in there. It was the cutest thing ever. But everybody did a fantastic job. Everybody hit the nail on the head. So it was great event. Always happy to support our Cub Scouts. March 23rd, as mentioned already, I went to Holy at City Center Bishop Ranch. Always great to be out there amongst our community. And then on March 24th, as mentioned as well, I attended Government 101, a graduation in where we gave out our graduation certificates and a beautiful black bag. Thanks to our city clerks and staff for coordinating that. It's a beautiful bag that we gave out to all of our graduates, and a great time talking and getting to know our community as well, more one-on-one. I do want to alert you that Rewire, which helps is an organization that supports women survivors of domestic violence, is also holding an International Women's Day 2025 on Sunday, March 30th, 3 to 5 p.m. And I just want to make sure I got it all. Yep, that was it. And so thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any last bits? Okay. Well, with that, I will adjourn the meeting until our next